All right. Welcome, everybody, to another Friday installment of David Green Real Estate, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, everything live. Super excited to be here live streaming with you. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kyle Renke. I am the COO of the David Green team. I wear many, many hats. I like to call myself the jack of all trades, master of all trades at the same time. We are here with Mr. Cool Cat, aviator sunglasses, Top Gun enthusiast, David Green himself. David, how's it going?
It's going really good, man. I got the sunglasses on inside because the future of my portfolio is that bright that I've got to wear shades.
I love it. And it's hot, which is a good thing. Today's topic of what we're going to be talking about is all the fun you've been having in real estate, David, over the last 45, 50 days. And you mentioned that this is the most fun you've ever had in real estate. And I'd love to dive into that a little bit and really have other people today come in and join us. I'm going to put a little ticker here at the bottom of where you can actually text message us and come on live to talk with David. If anything, I kind of want some of you to come in and push back on David. David is coming out and saying this is one of the best times ever to buy real estate. And he's actually afraid that it might be going away in the future. And so he's trying to take advantage of this opportunity. But we kind of want to hear from the naysayers. We want to hear from the people who don't believe that. And so David, do you mind just kind of jumping in a little bit and talking a little bit about why you've been having fun in this market?
I got to say, Kyle, it's so nice having you here on these things. Just like the level of stress that goes down when I know that you're here to handle the back end stuff and walk me through, I feel much better. I also did not know how big these sunglasses were because I've never actually seen myself wearing them, right? Like seeing myself on camera, I'm like, these take up a much bigger percentage of my face than I thought. Kyle, do you remember when we were just young pups, probably 20, 21 years old, and you were first moving into the Sacramento area and you made the comment, I think you were working for your Uncle Pete, who was in real estate. It was like foreshadowing of where we were going to end up. And you're like, I don't know what is up with how big girls' sunglasses are. They all look like bugs walking around. Like, do you remember that moment?
I did. Yeah, I remember that comment. And yeah, the bigger, the better, it seems like these days. And even back then.
Yeah. So Kyle and I are still millennials, just like as we're like the big brother millennial, right?
Barely,
We can
yeah.
actually make fun of millennials still and get away with it, but we are technically classified in that category. So many of you that are listening probably don't remember that sunglasses didn't used to be so big. There was actually a time where they kind of like fit your face appropriately, and then it became trendy for girls to get huge like bug eye sunglasses, and then dudes started doing it too. And now I'm in that group. I don't know if I'll be able to wear these the entire time, but I do hope I can keep them on for a little bit here.
Well, you look really cool with them, I must say.
I don't know. Do I, or are you just saying that because you're supportive?
Nah, probably both, but I have a pair of Ray-Bans exactly like that. I actually lost them. I have to find them, but they look good.
They work pretty good too. Like Oakleys are what I like a little bit more, but I do notice that Ray-Bans block more light, which might be why they're big.
And you're more, I think whoever wears, anytime anybody, woman or man, wears aviator sunglasses, automatically the first thought that goes through everybody's mind is authority. That person's an authority.
Is that more so than Oakleys?
I think so, yeah, because Oakleys are more like you're a surfer, you're laid back, you're maybe athletic.
A military thing.
Well, yeah, I guess it depends on the type of Oakley.
That's good
for sure. Yeah.
All right. So if you guys could do us a favor, go to the text message line that Kyle set up and put your message in there of what you'd like to talk about, why I'm having so much fun, what is so much fun about real estate, how you can have fun too, or if you just disagree that real estate is actually fun right now. It's okay if you do. I give you my word as long as you keep it respectful. If you don't keep it respectful, I give you my word I will probably crush you. But if you do, I give you my word you will not be crushed. I actually like when there's a little bit of tension, right? Like that's the only way you get to the bottom of something is you have to challenge the status quo. So we all do this in certain cases, like the market's going up. It can't go up this long. We're headed for a crash. That's a form of a challenge. That's fine, right? Challenge. You should be asking that because then it allows the other person who is in the other position to either prove they're right or realize they're wrong. But either way, you actually make progress with the question. So we're only going to make progress on these lives if you guys have a little bit of guts and you do say, hey, David, I just don't think this is the case. We had one person one time that challenged me and then we tried to get him to come in and they got scared. They didn't do it. But I want you guys to make sure you text with your questions. The show's better when we bring people in to ask. All right. Before we get into that, though, let's talk a little bit. By the way, if you guys are on Instagram, you're going to need to head over to YouTube now and join, and you can get your questions answered there. We're turning off the live. I'm going to have to remember to actually do an Instagram live at some point so that people don't see that I went live and just not check, right? It's like the little boy that cried wolf. Remember that story?
That's actually a good idea. Yeah. That way
Otherwise, people won't keep coming in. All right, so let's talk about reasons that I'm having fun. First off, the emergence of the short-term rentals in the last couple of years has absolutely changed the way you do real estate. So real estate used to be very predictable and very boring. I've always said it's part art, part science, but it was more science than it was art. So analyzing a deal specifically and especially like multifamily property, you put everything in a spreadsheet. There's a little bit of variables that can go on, but in general, it's not that much. Like your skill as an investor was more about how you can anticipate what those variables will be, right? How you plan for them. So it was about how you be good at science. And then we kind of took that approach and brought it into single family residential investing. That's very simple. You've got income, you've got very easy to track and easy to determine expenses. And the only variable was vacancy and if your tenant screwed up the house. So we would just say buy in a good area where there's high demand and you don't and screen good for good tenants. And that's it. It's not that hard to be an investor. You can know going into it what you're going to get. Everyone has flooded our asset class. Real estate has been hot and constant, whereas other asset classes, securities, NFTs, crypto have been hot, but they haven't been consistent. You haven't seen like the continual rise. NFTs, obviously there will be some person on here that proves the exception to the rule. By the way, guys, that is an annoying thing to do. Okay. Like if someone ever says like this thing is the case 99% of the time, it furthers the conversation to jump in and be like, but what about that 1%? Yes, there's always that 1%, but who cares about that when 99% of the time it's the opposite way. So don't do that. That's annoying. People don't like that when they're trying to like further a discussion along when you focus on the exception. And it's better to focus on the rule. So for a long time, our asset class has been very hot. People move into it, which means it's hard to make these multifamily deals work. It's hard to find these single family deals. I can go back to 2015, maybe 2016 when I was buying in Arizona or Florida. It was not hard to find a deal that cash flowed. It was just what's the best one, right? You were looking to see, okay, this one get me a 15% return. Can I get a 20% return? Or, can I get more equity and cash flow? The question was just what's the best option? Not is there an option? I think many of you that are here now, it's hard to find anything that works. It's very difficult to find cash flow in almost any market, even with things changing. And so what we've seen is that more and more people have moved away from passive income and into a more form of active income, which is short-term rentals, which is midterm rentals, which is the hospitality industry. You see a lot of real estate investors getting into owning hotels. That never was the case. Hotels, I would say that when I got started, buying a hotel was much more like buying a fast food franchise than it was like buying a real estate investment. So you had people that would invest in Jack in the Boxes or Chick-fil-A's or Five Guys hamburgers. Those are the kind of people that would buy a hotel, the kind of people that buy a gas station. A real estate investor wasn't getting into that because we wanted passive income. Well, passive income's kind of gone away. Now, house hacking is something that you might have to do. So more and more, the advice that we're giving people that are looking for additional income is you have to accept it's going to be more active than what it used to be. And if you resist that, you're just going to get passed up. You're not going to have the opportunity to buy. But I'm having so much fun because I'm not resisting that. I've embraced you kind of got to get into short-term rentals, or you got to get into house hacking, or you got to get into midterm rentals and think ahead. So there's different ways of making money in real estate than just cash flow. I'd like to have someone come on here that challenges me on that says cash flow is the only way that we should be making money in real estate. Because I found that cash flow is a way, but if that's the one you're looking for, you tend to be frustrated. I'm having a lot of fun because I'm not only focused on cash flow. Of course, I want cash flow, but I'm not only focused on it. I actually have a topic that I call, I kind of refer to it as portfolio architecture. And it has to do with the way that you build a portfolio. You do not buy a house. Okay. If you were trying to put together a football team or a basketball team, you wouldn't look at every single player and evaluate them individually. You would do that, and then you would say, how do they fit within this team? So Kyle and I were just having a talk about the business that we're trying to build, the David Green team. And we were talking about how you can have a player that is like, let's say you have a football player that catches X amount of passes and X amount of yards and X amount of touchdowns. There are investors that try to look at business and investing like, if I go bring that player from the Packers onto my team, who's a team that has a bad quarterback, Kyle?
Ooh,
49ers.
There's been a lot of NFL changes over the last summer, so it's kind of hard to know who's who now.
And you only hear about the good ones, right? I don't know. Pick a random team. Who here in the comments can help us out with this? What's a team that does not have? Okay, the Texans don't have. Thank you, yo boy Goose. The Texans. You can't take a receiver from the Packers who's playing underneath Aaron Rodgers with a great offensive line and maybe a solid running game, and put him on the Texans and say, "Oh, he got that many touchdowns for them. We're going to get this many touchdowns this year. We're going to win more." No, because if your offensive line is terrible, but your quarterback is good, the quarterback never gets rid of the ball. Or if your offensive line is great, but your quarterback sucks, he gets rid of the ball, but he doesn't do it accurately. That's a better way to look at business. You bring a talented person into your company. Are they surrounded by people that help them do well? You bring a house into your portfolio. Is it going to thrive in your portfolio under your leadership? Or is it going to struggle because it's not in the right situation? Now, obviously, houses are not the same as a player on a football team, but the principle is consistent, and the same is true of employees. So with portfolio architecture, it's about how you construct a portfolio to maximize the upside and minimize the downside, right? Can you put together a number of small multifamily properties that are going to cash flow solid, but probably not appreciate great, to cover for the fact that your Airbnb that you buy, your short-term rental, might not perform that great or might not perform that great for a couple years. So instead of losing it to foreclosure, you balance things out by having some high risk stuff, like maybe throwing that long ball on a football team. You don't do that every play. If you got a portfolio full of short-term rentals, it's like throwing the long bomb every single time. You got to mix that in with some more conservative plays. And we all understand that at a lot of things in life, but you also want to build your portfolio the same way. And part of why I'm having fun is I've just accepted that. So I'm now getting into the short-term rental space, which inherently is more work, but it is also more fun. You can make more money, and making more money, getting more cash flow is definitely something that's fun. I mean, Kyle, would you agree with that? That when you can make more money, you're going to have more fun?
Always. Yeah. Anytime you can make more money, it's going to be so much more fun.
There you go. There's also the upside to these deals. So I'm buying more expensive properties than I typically could buy, because everyone knows about the price rent ratio. When I did long-term rentals, I really couldn't buy something that was more than $225, $250, because now my rent needs to be at $2,000 a month to $2,500 a month. And that's very hard to get a tenant to pay that in an area where houses are costing $250. Like, they'll pay $2,500 a month in the Bay Area, but you got to buy $1,000 house, or sorry, $1 million house to get that. So in the areas where you can buy rental properties, you get capped at how high the rents can go, which means you get capped at how expensive of a house you could buy, which means you get capped at to how good of an area that you get into, and you end up dealing with the worst parts of real estate. You have to accept it. Like, those properties kind of function like your offensive line, and no one has fun on the offensive line in football. That's not the part of football that's fun. It's a necessary evil. But none of us, when we're watching football, focus on the guard, and we're like, wow, did you see that amazing way that they stopped this defensive lineman? You only notice that it's even happening unless somebody made a mistake. So when I get out of that asset class and I get into $1 million homes, which is funny because at some point we won't even care that I said $1 million homes. There'll be someone watching this video in the future and like, what do you mean only 1 million? Like, you can't find a house for $1 million. The cheapest house you'll find is 5 million. Like, that's the road that we're headed down with inflation. But when you get into these more expensive houses, they're cooler, they're more fun. You have a higher upside. So if a market appreciates 10% on a $200,000 house, you made 20 grand in equity. If it does that on $1 million house, you made 100 grand in equity, and you get more excited about making 100 grand than you do making 20 grand. I think that's a thing to note. You get into bigger homes, which I've always liked. I don't like buying an 1,100 square foot home, a 1,300 square foot home, because there's not much I could do to it, right? The science part I can get right. But the art, how do I make the floor plan better? How do I improve the home? Other than in remodeling a bathroom and a kitchen, maybe I could add a bathroom to, like, a 3-1, make it a 3-2, or Sometimes I get a home run and make it a 4-2. That's how I used to execute the burst strategy. And that's kind of the only stuff I could do. Now I'm buying a 4,500 square foot house, right? I'm looking at one right now that I can't make the numbers work because it's a 4-bedroom, but I can take the very big movie room. I can turn that into 2 additional bedrooms, making it a 6-bedroom. And I can move the movie room into the garage that is not being used at all because it's a short-term rental. Then I can take another utility room that's huge and just used as like a second pantry, but it's the size of a bedroom. And I can turn it into a bedroom and put a door on the other side of it. So you don't walk in from the kitchen. You actually walk in from the hallway like a bedroom should be. I can turn a 4-bedroom home into a 7-bedroom home. What do you think that does to my revenue? It increases it a ton. The odds of me having the ability to do that on a 4,500 square foot home are pretty decent. The odds of me being able to do that on a 1,300 square foot home are not decent. Like all of the art part of building wealth in real estate stops existing when you got to buy small, tiny homes at low price points. So it's another area that I'm having more fun because the creative side, the artistic side, the side that allows you to use your skills, the tools you have to improve the value of a home, they exist. Imagine that you're a contractor and you love construction, you love building, you love fixing things, you love making things. And you walk into a house and you get to keep one tool on your tool belt. All you get is a hammer, all you get is a screwdriver, all you get is a saw. You can only fix certain problems. But if you get every tool in your entire truck to use, you get to have a bunch of fun. Well, when you get into more expensive homes and you get into more creative opportunities, and you get into the short-term rental market where you actually can drive up yearly revenue by making the house cooler and better and looking better in pictures and giving people a better experience. It's like a contractor being given a whole blank slate, a whole mansion that they get to go in and they get to play with versus a very small thing with only one tool that they get to use. Am I making sense so far, Kyle?
Yeah, you're making a lot of sense. So I hear you saying that cash flow is not the only thing. And if anything, there are ways to be creative to bring in more cash flow. Let me push back on that a little bit and play devil's advocate. What do you say to the people who are looking, but they're not finding anything that's even close to cash flowing? And maybe it's their first or their second investment property, and they don't really have the funds to be, paying out of their pocket every single month. What do you say to people like that?
Well, first off, they're not going to get to have a ton of fun if they're trying to buy what you're talking about. Like that's not the real estate that we're talking about right now. But that's okay because listening to me talk about this stuff should function as the carrot that causes you to sort of pursue getting into real estate when it's fun. Because what you just described is how I spent the first 8 to 10 years of my investing career. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration. I probably got there faster than most people do because I had businesses that made money. But assuming you don't have that, in order to build the equity that you need to get into the fun stuff, you're going to have to do what Kyle just said. You're going to have to go after those deals. In fact, that brings us back to portfolio architecture. The base of your pyramid is the widest. And Kyle, why would you want the base of the pyramid to be wider than the top?
You got to have a strong foundation to fall back on if it starts to fall apart.
That's it. If you look at the pyramid the other way around and you have the base as the skinniest part, and then as you go up, it gets wider, that would theoretically be like the wider that you go, the higher that you go, the more potential return you have, but the more risk. Well, if it's like that, where the majority of your portfolio is built around high risk, high return, and the bottom of it is low risk, low return, the slightest breeze will knock the whole thing over. And that could be a recession. That could be personal distress. That could be losing your job. That could be a divorce. That could be just going through a depressive state where you don't make a bunch of money and then boom, something breaks, the whole thing topples. So the way I teach people to build wealth is slow and boring, but predictable with the carrot at the end. There is a cherry that you're trying to get, which is this fun stuff we're talking about now. But your base should be triplexes, single family homes in areas that are very consistent, high cash flowing stuff that you've added value to. So remind me, Kyle, was your question, what advice would I give for the person trying to get like their first or second house?
Yeah, exactly. And maybe they can't find anything that's cash flowing.
Man, like everybody's having the problem of not finding anything that's cash flowing. For that person, you take even another step back in this journey and start with house hacking. Now, let me define what I mean by step back, because it doesn't mean you're making a worse deal. What I actually mean is a step back in your journey to get to cash flow. what you're doing is you're delaying gratification longer. Okay. So you can get a house hack that isn't going to cash flow right away. In fact, Kyle, would you say the majority of the deals you're looking at right now in Northern California, they don't necessarily cash flow for the person living in their house hack, right?
No, almost
But
like 0%.
almost, yeah. So that's, yeah. Let's say nothing cash flows.
Yeah.
But if you were paying $2,200 a month in rent, and now you're paying $1,000 a month, it actually is like cash flowing $1,200. In fact, it's like cash flowing $1,500, because if you cash flow $1,500, you probably pay $300 a month in taxes. Okay. So saving $1,200 is the same as making $1,500. I know this is weird and no one talks about it like that, but you do need to recognize it is more efficient to save money than it is to make more money. Now, there comes a point of diminishing returns where saving money on coffee is not worth it if you just go get a better job and like make a bunch more money, right? That can become more efficient. But if you can't find anything that cash flows, get creative and delay gratification. So I do this still. If I was in your position, Kyle, I guess it's not your position, it's our hypothetical person's, and they're looking around, they're like, man, I got 20% to put down. There's nothing out there that cash flows. I would say, all right, what am I pre-approved for? Throw me out a number that someone could get pre-approved for for a primary.
500K.
All right. I would say, what is the best neighborhood, the best area, the best possible property that I can get into for 500K? And I would say, let's see, in someone's market, what's a good city that you can buy in that you'll have houses at 500K? Throw me out the name of a city that somebody lives in that there's houses around 500K in the nicer areas. Locally baked Amish cookings. We're near Amish. Okay, Richmond, California. All right, Goose. I'm going to go with that because I actually know Richmond. Very good. Rich what?
Rich what? Richmond.
There you go. All right. So I would say, what is the nicest area in Richmond, or what is the nicest area surrounding Richmond? So I'm going to go on a limb here, and I'd say maybe you say, all right, I could buy something for 500 Richmond, or I could get into Vallejo. You know what? I could probably get into a better a neighborhood in Vallejo, maybe on the water or close to the water for barely 500. Like I'm almost getting in there. Okay. I would go look at the houses that have been on the market for 40 days or more that are in the best neighborhoods that are listed at 550 to 600 with the most square footage I could find, and say, can I get it at 500? And I would just call every listing agent or have my realtor look around for me and say, is there any chance we could put this deal together at 500? I'd go back to the lender and say, what do I got to do to get to 515 or 520? Because there's absolutely things you guys can do to do that. In fact, I'll give you an easy one right now because you're here. And if you're working with Kyle or you're working with one of our agents or our loan officers at the one brokerage, we will tell you this. If you get this, like your pre-approval amount, let's say of 500, is based on the debt to income ratio, what you can afford. The interest rate of the loan determines how expensive your mortgage is, which determines, like, it's part of your debt to income ratio. If we can get your mortgage of 6.5 down to 5.75, you can get approved for a more expensive house. Now, if we can get the seller to actually to give you that money in closing costs to buy down your rate, we can get the seller to get you into the more expensive house. So your loan officer, if you're working with us, would say, all right, you're approved for 500 at 6.5%. But for another 20 grand, we can buy you down to 5.75. And now you're approved for 525 or 530. So you tell your agent, I need you to get me something with at least 30,000 in closing costs or 40,000 in closing costs. And I could go all the way up to 530. So now that house listed at 600 that you didn't think you could get, or 550, they'll take an offer at 530 with 30,000 in closing costs, which really is 500, but they don't understand that. And now you're getting into the best neighborhood you could as a house hacker, only having to put 3.5% down or 5% down. And you're getting the rate that allows you to get into the more expensive house, right? Because we're asking the question of how can I do it, not is it easy? From that point, I would convert the garage into living space. I would rent out the rooms. I would turn the house into several units and rent them out to coworkers or other people I know. I would turn it into as many different units as I could get away with that the parking and the bathrooms would support. So now maybe your main house is functioning like 2 different units and you're living in the garage that you converted. Okay. You've got yourself a rental property, but you can't rent it out right now. You got to live in it. And then next year you move out and do the same thing again into another property. And now you've got 3 units and that property will cash flow. Mm-hmm. You've also added some value to it. You've also got a year of appreciation under your belt. Now, it didn't cash flow right away, but it cash flowed in a year. And the house that you moved into will do the same thing later. So what happens with house hacking is you build wealth, but you don't see the cash flow of the wealth until further in the future.
Yep.
That house that you got into in the best neighborhood in Vallejo, 5 years from now is going to be cash flowing like a mother. It's going to be awesome. You're going to love that deal. But your friends that were like, oh, I just went to this other market and put 20% down and I got cash flow on day one, make you feel bad because you're only thinking about cash flow. This is the problem with cash flow, cash flow, cash flow. You can't get out of thinking like that. That's not how you build wealth. So that's the advice that I would give. And then what a lot of people do also is it's a mindset thing. You'll hear Kyle and I talk about this all the time. If you're listening to this right now, you're living in the matrix and you don't realize it, how your mind most likely works. And I'm speaking to everybody here. Okay. This is the money I make right now. How do I build wealth with this money? So I'll hear people say, I work as what's a common job, Kyle, that doesn't require a whole lot of testing or stress or challenge? Very comfortable job to have. The golden handcuff.
Toll booth person.
That is perfect. That's why you're here. I work at the toll booth on the Bay Bridge and I'm in a union and I make $72,000 a year and I got another 11 years to go before I get retirement. And I need some plan to build wealth because we can't save enough money on this income. Okay. And they say, David, how do I find a way to build wealth when I only make $72,000 a year and saving money is hard? I got to do something. And they stress themselves out trying to find this perfect deal out there that's going to be their magic pill that cures their ill. What I would honestly say is you need a house hack every year. And you need another job, and you need a better job, and you need to get into somewhere that allows you to earn additional money and maybe work a little more, be a little less comfortable. It is okay if after your 8-hour shift of your job, you drive Uber, you go work for a consulting company, you go work for an accounting company, you go work for a bookkeeper, and you make another $20 an hour, $30 an hour, keeping books for 3 to 4 hours at the end of your day. And then you go see your spouse, you go to bed. Like that's all right to do. Okay. You don't have to be stuck in, I will only work 8 hours and anything more than that is abuse. Anything more than that is unfair. Okay. You also don't want to work 15 hours a day unless you're getting paid really, really well for that. That's another thing to keep in mind. Like, don't just slave away for no money. But the problem with, I would say, house hack and get a better job, house hack and do better at the job you have. And Kyle, if you had to say in your experience of leading agents and leaving the W-2 world and getting in the 1099 world yourself, what has been the biggest limiting factor in people's ability to earn more money?
Skills, building skills, becoming really, really, really good at something. The people that I've seen be successful and be able to scale up really quickly, whether that be in real estate or as a real estate agent or just in a 1099 type of field, it's the people that work insanely hard, but also have built the skills to be able to do that, as opposed to people that didn't really work on the skills. They never really progressed to be able to get to the level that they wanted to.
Now, let me ask you guys in the chat. I'm going to give you a minute to answer here. How many of you here on a consistent basis, building skills is incredibly important? When you hear people tell you what you need to do to get ahead in life, invest in your 401k, stop drinking coffee, read your self-affirmations every morning, do the miracle morning. Well, I'm trying to do other things. Meditate. How many times do you get an emphasis where people say, focus on building skills?
Seeing some thumbs up.
I don't know. I want to hear people say, actually, here, tell me where you hear this from, because I don't hear it anywhere. I don't see society putting an emphasis on skill building. Right. So I know you guys know it's important, but how often is that affirmed?
Seth says he hears it mostly from us. I like this. Jesse says doubled his salary by working overtime. Christoph says, never heard that outside of BP. Love it. Jimmy
Who on
says,
BP do you hear that from, other than me or Brandon, maybe?
yeah, tell us what you think, Christoph. Marnie says, unfortunately, people seem to want to skirt actually learning, and they always try to find the easy way, that path of least resistance.
Yeah, and that is often affirmed, I think. You hear people say, like, don't let your boss abuse you, or you'll hear a lot of people that are in the position of an owner that are like the Simon Sinek approach, which I for a long time heard him talk, and you just assume, oh, Simon Sinek knows what he's talking about. He always would say the same thing. You've got to cater to the millennial. You've got to give them a reason to work. You've got to give them something to believe in, a cause to get behind, right? And I used to hear that stuff, and I just started to think, no, I actually don't think that's the employer's job. The employer's job is to give them the paycheck that they agreed to work for. That is it. Okay. You don't go to work to find purpose in life. You don't go to work to find meaning. You don't go to work to find the reason you were born. You go to work to make money when someone else is paying you. You actually go to work to serve. You are serving your employer. If you're a post worker, you go to work to deliver mail because the government is paying you to do that. Now, you should find your purpose in life. You should find meaning. You should find like a lot of things that are important, but you don't need to find it at your job. Like, no one ever said you need to find everything in the same place. Kyle, you're married. Does it work good in a marriage when you try to take your spouse and make them your lover, your best friend, your only confidant, the person that you dump all your crap onto at the end of the day? The person that you bring all your fears to, your coworker, your assistant. Is it good to have one person play every role in your life?
No, it's literally impossible, especially with personalities and everything that we have in our lives as a married couple. It would be impossible for us to play the same exact role for each other.
Yeah, and if you have a wife or a husband that has other friends, other things going on in their life, other people they can talk to, other support systems, like whatever the case may be, like, is it usually a healthier situation?
Yes, especially if you're playing to strengths, it's always healthier.
Right. Now, you do have certain things that only your spouse can meet. You don't want to be sleeping with other people instead of your spouse. You don't want them to be doing the same, right? So there are certain things that only that person can do. Like in a business, the bookkeeper really should be the only person with access to the accounts. You don't want your person that answers the phones to be getting
Right.
the access to your accounts, right?
Mhm.
But in general, a business doesn't have one person doing everything. So what sense does it make from an emotional level to have one job that is supposed to meet every need you have in your life? You are going to end up disappointed.
Mhm.
All right. Now, I see somebody in the quotes here said something like, we're slaving away for someone else. I don't know the context of what that was said. They may have mentioned this earlier in the quote. So I didn't see. There may be follow up to it. But I would say, like, I don't know that I agree that you're slaving away for someone else by working a job. I think what you're probably doing is you become a slave to your comfort zone. Okay, that toll worker that goes to the booth every day, that has learned everything there is to know about that job, is not being pushed, is not being challenged, is not being forced to grow, is not being intellectually stimulated, has no degree of risk in their life at all. They have traded their dreams for the comfort of the situation, and now they're bitter. They're resentful. They are not content with where they're at,
Mhm.
but they don't understand that it's their responsibility to get themselves in a better position. What they think is, my employer should make me more content. My employer should be meeting my needs. My employer should give me some reason to live, a cause to get behind. And if they don't give me that cause to get behind, like Simon says, well, I feel like it's okay to not work hard. Let my coworkers pick up the slack, make the company less profitable. I'm still going to collect my check because I need that money, but I don't care about working on the team, right? Now, in a business, you never see the effect of that because there's not competition. But imagine you're on a sports team with that attitude, right? I'm tired of blocking every single day. I'm not content with my pay and what I'm getting right now. So I'm just going to not work, and I'm going to let the defensive lineman go right back and sack the quarterback. That happens twice, and the coaches are like, what the hell is happening? You're gone. Because in a true capitalistic market, you can't get away with that. They're going to replace you with someone that is going to care for the paycheck that they're getting made. So what I want to say to all of you guys, if you lived in a world where you were not carried by your employer, where you were actually judged every day by how productive were you, what skills do you have, how good did you do, did you actually block that defensive lineman, you would put a huge emphasis on building skills. If you made your livelihood out of playing in the NFL and you're an offensive lineman and your person's getting past you, you'd be staying after practice every single day to learn skills, to improve your footwork. You'd be watching film of what other people do well and trying to emulate that. All of us that played on a sports team that wanted to be good, we did all those things. We were constantly building skills. No one had to tell you it was important. It's when we got out of that environment where it was like a 1099 meritocracy. It's very capitalistic. The best players get all the playing time. Like there's no socialism in sports. You don't get to be the guy that sucks at the end of the bench, and maybe in T-ball you do. But once you get into the upper levels, it's not like, oh, every player on the Bulls gets paid the same. And this guy should get just as much playing time as Michael Jordan. It's not fair that Michael Jordan gets to be in the game, especially in the fourth quarter when it's the best. We need to put Judd Buechler out there, and he needs to get just as many shots as Michael Jordan does when the game's on the... No, that doesn't work, okay? But when you get into an environment where other people are taking care of you, it is very easy to start thinking that way. And this is a huge part of wealth building. This is why we're talking about this right now. I'm having so much fun because I'm buying a lot of real estate. Why am I able to buy a lot of real estate? Because I'm also working in business. And why am I doing well in business? Because I'm focused on building skills. I'm building skills in the people that work with me. I'm building skills with the people that are around me. I'm building skills with my leadership. I'm building skills with our agents. I'm building skills with our loan officers. I'm building skills with everyone that comes around. I'm trying to make them better, because if I got a bunch of people on my team that have a high level of skill, I'm going to win more. Do you guys think that Michael Jordan only focused on himself, or do you think that he pushed his team? Right? Like, Kyle, do you know any really good players that are on good teams that don't push their team?
No, they are always pushing either themselves or other people out of their comfort zone. And I think there's actually a lot of research that recently came out on this, because there's always been the 10,000 hour rule, right? If you spend 10,000 hours doing something and perfecting it, you're going to become a master of that craft. But you guys can put it in the comments. I don't remember which book this was recently in, but basically that's a partially true myth, because you always have to constantly be pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone to actually perfect and master that true skill, right? So if I was to spend 10,000 hours playing the guitar, but playing all the same chords, I'm not really going to get that much better at it. But if I'm constantly trying to push, and perfect and get better, or somebody's pushing me to do that, that's what I need to be able to do that. So I think it's skills is like the baseline, right? But then you always have to be continually raising the bar and pushing the limits.
And building new skills, right? Once you got your skill down, what happens is you feel a lot of pain, like you're the offensive lineman. My guy's getting past me. My teammates hate me. The crowd is booing me. I'm going to lose my job. I have anxiety because I can't sleep at night. The coaching staff is all over me. I'm getting singled out. You don't like it. You are in pain. That is a very powerful motivator to build skills to get out of it. Now, let's look at that like a step up. I escape my pain by taking a step up, and now I'm comfortable. You can either choose to stay in that position, like I learned this chord, it doesn't suck anymore, now I know how to do it, and stay right there because you're not in pain. Or you can choose to enter into a new environment, learn a new chord, put yourself in a new position where you have no skills, and now you're getting yelled at again. Now you're in pain. Now that motivates you to take the next step up. Now, if you continually live like this, you end up ascending a very large staircase. And let's say in this analogy, the higher you go, the more money that you make. That more money equals more security. It equals more opportunity. It equals more ability to exercise your creativeness rather than just having to be forced to block the guy in front of you. Now, this isn't a great example for football, but in this imaginary analogy, once you've learned how to block that guy, now they're like, you can be a tight end, and now we can teach you how to run routes as a wide receiver. Football starts to become more fun. You get to do some more fun stuff, okay? Then let's say that you go through the pain and you learn how to run routes as a wide receiver, and they go, now we can make you a running back. You've earned the right to get there. Obviously, that's why I'm saying sports aren't the greatest analogy, but within business, this is the way it goes. Oh, now you've learned how to do that. You don't have to do as many not fun stuff. Now, there's a large degree of people that are here listening to this right now, or that are here because they want more stability and security in their life. They see that retirement is coming and they're working at that toll booth and they got 11 years to get ahead and they just don't know what to do. And the cash flow is harder to find than it used to be. And they're freaking out. Okay. They're like, what am I going to do? There's no cash flow, and they're getting angry and they're getting scared and they're getting worried. They don't want to lose what they've already got, but they have to put it in the pot to make it grow. And they're just stuck in this anxious bubble, which might be what drove you here today. You're in a form of pain. What I'm going to say is you don't escape that pain by seeking comfort. You escape that pain by seeking skills. You keep putting yourself into new environments where you don't know what you're doing, that feel uncomfortable, where you make some mistakes and you learn it and you figure it out and you get good at it and you move up and you've learned the chord and you go learn the next chord. And what happens when you've learned enough chords, you can actually write songs. And now playing the guitar is fun because you get to exercise the creativity of writing a song and playing it. You get to feel the people in the crowd that are liking what you're doing. You get all the recognition that everybody wants as a rock star, right? We typically look at the rock star and we're like, I want their life. I wish I could buy all those houses. I wish I had all that money. I wish I had the rock star's life and all that fame. But you're like, okay, here's how you get there. You take 100 steps up this staircase and every step is painful. We're like, I don't like pain. I'm actually here to try to escape pain, right? There's a contradiction. There's no way around this. You have to go through building skills, which will involve pain, to get the security that you want. If you're trying to find security by avoiding building skills, by avoiding taking risk, you will never, ever get there. Kyle, what do you think about what I've said so far?
I'm loving it. Yeah. Eminem says, yes, hashtag escape the pain, hashtag seek the skills. My question is, because I always see that whenever someone's, and this can be with me too, whenever someone's first experience with pain is they want to escape it. They want to get away from it. They want it to stop. What do you say? What needs to happen mindset wise, where the shift needs to happen for us to continue trudging forward and saying, well, instead, I'm going to focus on building more skills here to get me out of this pain?
I like this. Let's see if we can get a person in the chat to come in that I can talk to specifically about that question Kyle just asked. That is amazing that I'm in pain and I don't know how to get out. Because go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, if someone's in pain or they've experienced pain, which we all have, and they've been in that rut, and you want to ask David how you can get out of that, you want to come in and maybe share, text the message below, and we'll bring you in. But go ahead, David.
We're talking about this because I want you guys to be having as much fun as I am. All right, like let's say that there's a cabin I'm looking at right now in the Smoky Mountains that's 4,500 square feet. It is listed at 1.5 million. It's been sitting on the market. Cool property. All right. I saw the house and I wanted it. Now I'm trying to figure out how I could make it happen. How many people here could be in the same position as me, but just don't know what to do to make that happen? Like, you don't know what to offer. You don't know how to negotiate. You don't know what to look at. You see it doesn't cash flow. You go, I guess I got to move on to the next one. I don't do that. I don't see, oh, I guess I got to move on to the next one. I say, how could I make it cash flow? Well, you got some ideas, but you don't know who to bounce them off of, right? Well, I get to go to a property manager, say, what about this? And then he sends me back an email and he says, no, that won't work. Here's some comps that are other 4-bedroom houses. And then I start looking, I'm like, oh, this isn't a 4-bedroom house. This is a 5-bedroom house. But like I said, I could turn this into a 7-bedroom house. How would that change things? You guys would probably like to do that, but you don't have the property manager to go to, right? Because you don't have the skills. You don't have the skills to build a network, to build resources. You didn't understand that when you were making phone calls that you should be looking for people like this because you were going to need them later. You just ran your deal on a spreadsheet and saw it didn't work out and said, oh, it's hard to find cash flow. And you moved on to the next one. I'm having fun thinking about how I could get this cabin and then how could I use it creatively? So we're doing this retreat in Scottsdale because I got this big, fun, cool property that I want to share with other people. And I can have people come and learn from me in a group setting, which is a way I can use that house that other Airbnb investors can't, right? So when they ran their numbers on that deal, mine ended up looking a little different because I can use it in creative ways. That makes it fun. We want you guys to come to these retreats so that we can share this kind of information and specifically the investing stuff in more detail. But the point is, I'm having a more fun time staying at that house, having fun in that area, getting to do Scottsdale type stuff. I'm not stuck in North Dakota bitter and saying, why does life suck? Because I can't get out of here. Because I have excuse me, I have skills you guys don't have. And I don't mean to be bragging. We want to teach you guys that. What I think is that people don't go into life understanding how much of the quality of life you live has to do with the skills you build. So many people focus on like, oh, well, I got dealt a bad hand of cards. I guarantee there's people on this call right now that got dealt a bad hand of cards. We live in a sin-filled, fallen world that is full of horrible, horrible things. Almost everybody in some way gets a bad deck of cards. In fact, most of you, I know that was the case for you, because if you didn't have that, you wouldn't be driven enough to be spending your Friday night on this call. You'd be out at a club or doing something fun or not trying to learn if you weren't in pain. You guys are here because you're in pain, and often because you got dealt a bad deck of cards. The answer isn't I need to improve my situation by other people changing things. I need to vote for a politician that's going to give me more free stuff. I need to get another job at another toll booth that pays more than $72,000 a year, right? The answer is you got to build more skills. Dan Picasso, I see you saying you could talk. Make sure you text Kyle and let us know what you want to talk about with that. It's building the skills. And when you build skills, you get to have more fun. And guys, I could be having even more fun in life if I had better skills. One thing that I don't have skills in is hiring. I'm not good at it. Kyle has had to deal with this the whole time he's worked for me. I tend to look at the players that want to play on my team, and I look for like the underdog, because I was the underdog and I want to give them the shot every time, not the great skilled player that's going to help the team, right? That's held me back. Kyle's now in charge of hiring, and he's working on building his skills in that area. And I'm working on building the skills of putting Kyle in charge. And as he hires better people, the businesses will do better. And guess what? I will get to have more fun. I will get to bring the entire team to this cabin that we're talking about, and we're all going to sit in the movie room that's freaking dope, and we're going to enjoy watching a movie together and make memories that makes life more fun. We're going to use that time to build our skills, so when we come back, we get to have even more fun. It's a step up this staircase that I keep talking about. I've accepted building skills is the only way to get a better life. Real estate is not a way around that fact. Real estate is a method that I also build skills in because I respect that fact. How many of you guys have ever been in a relationship with a person that does not want to change? They want to change other people. Okay. I think all of us, and if you don't know that person, you're probably that person, by the way. Okay. Kyle, you're in a marriage. Does your marriage require you to change?
Yeah, constantly growing for sure.
It never ends, right?
Yep.
Like, is there ever a point you get to say, I don't want to change. This is just who I am, and I'm going to do what I want, that I'm comfortable with?
My wife would not be happy with that.
No. And if your wife's not happy, then you're not going to get what you want out of the relationship. And now you're not happy. So the only way for you to be happy is to embrace changing. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay. But we've all been in a relationship with a person who doesn't want to change. They want to change us. All right. The problem with that scenario is that person has not accepted or respected, or I would even use the word submitted to, the law of nature, that the only way to become happier is to change something in yourself. And it doesn't have to be, I know we're getting off of real estate, but I think this is important stuff. It doesn't have to be lowering your expectations. That's what you get told. Well, just don't expect that person to like do anything different, right? What if the thing you got to change in yourself is to become a more encouraging human? What if the thing you got to change in yourself, like, let's say, like, a common thing that I think comes up in relationships would be like, when we get comfortable, we tend to not stay in shape. Like, you just let yourself go physically. In general, the more comfortable you get. And then both of the partners are like, man, we're not really happy because neither of us in good shape, right? You could try to make the other person get in better shape instead of you, or you could go together with that person to the gym. You could go shopping together and get rid of the bad food and commit to eating the good food together. You could support each other in ways that make it easier for each of you to get more fit. And then you get the benefit of living a life where you're more fit, and you get the benefit of having a spouse that is more attractive, which makes the relationship better, which makes you happier, right? That's a skill that you can change in yourself that anyone can develop, the skill of encouragement. But when you're in a relationship with a human being that doesn't want to be encouraging, they just want to point out something that's wrong with the other person and say, you have to change or you have to do things different, we're not happy. That's the same way that it works with wealth building. It's the same way that it works with anything. If you want to be happy, if you want to have fun, you got to build different skills. In fact, I believe that pretty much anyone, anywhere can do anything they want in life if they have the right skills. Okay. It takes time to build those skills. Now, the reason people argue is they say, well, this person that's illiterate, David, they could never do what you do. That's because they're illiterate. They got to build the skill of reading. Now, it is true that it's not fair for them that when they were in kindergarten, they didn't learn it like I did. And it doesn't matter if they're now 50 years old. They still have to learn it if they want to have the better life. There isn't a way around it. And I'm sort of wishing everyone would understand that skill building gives you a better life, because we don't get told this. We don't get told this about anything. Like, no one explains to you how important it is to be able to build skills. Kyle, did we have anyone that we want to bring in and talk about this, or did you have?
Yeah, we got a couple people here actually I think would be really good to talk with, and I can 100% agree with what you're saying. Like, for me right now, where I'm at in life for me is probably the hardest it's ever been in terms of the challenges that I'm dealing with. But because of the skills that I've built over the last 5 or 6 years working with you, I'm much more able to handle those, right? And so even though it's harder and it's challenging in some ways, I'm having way more fun than I ever did when I was just sitting in my, basic safety, secure cubicle working my W-2 as a speech therapist. So because I was able to take those small steps of continually pushing myself out of my comfort zone, it's like lifting weights, where after a while I can handle more pressure. I can handle bigger and more challenging obstacles because I kept pushing myself out. So we do have a couple people here. Actually, Sean is on the call here. I don't see Sean. Can you show your face for us?
Dan was the one who was going to ask the question about.
Yeah, we got two people. So Dan, we'll have Dan come on first. He said he's had to become uncomfortable and go through some pain to escape the pain that he was feeling about a situation in college. Graduating, knowing that he was going to be working for the next 30 years if he didn't change something. Nothing too revolutionary, but he understands the concept. So, Dan,
before we get into that, Kyle, let's use an example from your life. Okay.
Sure.
If you don't mind, do you mind if I share some of the steps you took just with your employment, not other stuff?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So Kyle graduates college. What's the first job that you get?
Basketball coach, college basketball coach.
Okay. So you already knew how basketball worked. You played basketball in college. Yep. Now you have to learn how to coach. That's a new skill to build, right?
Yep.
What are some of the things that you had to learn how to do to be good at that job?
So when I first started, I knew the fundamentals. I knew how to teach people how to shoot a basketball, but I didn't really know all the ins and outs that went into scheduling games. That's something that colleges do, right? You have to find out who you're going to play. Coordinating like recruiting trips and actually calling people and recruiting them and trying to win them over to come to your college. So I had to learn to actually get on the phone and make phone calls and talk to potential prospects and see if they wanted to join. Learning about scholarship systems and how those work. Learning about the inner workings and politics of a collegiate athletic program. So tons of stuff.
Were there areas of your life where you had to be challenged that were uncomfortable to do those things?
Almost every single one of them, yeah.
Right. Every day was not fun. You're like, I don't know how to call this recruit and talk to him. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to fly to this city and find this gym. And like, what am I supposed to look for in the players? How do I know if they're going to be good or not? There's no one. Why don't I have a mentor? Someone should be here right now holding my hand and showing me every single step that needs to be taken. You had all those thoughts, right?
Yep.
Did you get frustrated you didn't have a mentor?
Sometimes, not all the time though.
Well, but what if someone had said to you, you're supposed to find a mentor? Was there a ton of mentors around? They're going to help a person evaluate female basketball talent?
Not really. No,
you didn't really have that option.
I had to figure it out.
So then what happened with that job?
So then essentially my boss, the head coach, got fired. So which means the assistant coach got fired, which means I got to look for something to do.
There you go. So you lost your job under no fault of your own.
Yep.
Your boss lost their job. So what was the next job you took?
So the next job I took was working in tech support, the help desk for another university.
Did that job challenge you very much?
Maybe for like a few weeks, but not really. It was kind of like some of the basic stuff that I already knew. So it wasn't that challenging.
And did it pay super well?
No, not great.
So did you learn there was an equivalent between how hard you are challenged and pushed and how well you are compensated?
Definitely. There's a direct correlation for sure.
Yeah. And you kind of became aware of that fact when you had that job, right?
Yep.
So what made you get out of that job?
Pain, and the pain of boredom, not making money and not seeing where it's going to progress my life and my career. And so that's basically boredom overall.
You wanted more money. You wanted a bit more challenge. You wanted something better to do than just answer the phone and tell someone turn your computer off and on, right?
That is like the number one thing with tech support. I'm telling everybody that's watching right now, before you call your tech support liaison, your wife, your husband, your grandma, whoever knows computers better than you, try restarting it first.
That's funny.
Yeah.
There was a lot of pain behind trying to help those people, and Cal still
Yes.
remembers it.
You're still one of them, David. I have to remind you, like, did you restart it first? Okay,
Yep,
thank
that's true. All right, now let's say in this scenario, what if you had been told by other people it's your employer's job to keep you motivated and happy? Do you think you would have stayed at that job longer, just expecting them to give you more money?
I might have. If anything, I maybe did, and I expected that for too long. It took me too long to actually figure out that it wasn't their job.
Looking back, don't we always say that? Like, I
Yeah.
should have made a move sooner,
Yep.
right? Okay. What was the next job you have after that?
So after that, I got my second master's degree and moved into speech language pathology. So big profession, great way to help serve people, great way for me to learn new skills, challenge my skills, especially working in the hospital, and then solid pay.
Okay. And then how much were you tested in that position?
I was tested early on for the first 2 to 3 years, I'd say, really trying to perfect my craft, especially because it was more on the medical side. So that
Mhm.
took a lot more time and intensive training, conferences, seminars, actually practicing, in a sense, medicine with other people.
And then I'm assuming there was like quite a bit of pain in that process that you were trying to learn all that fear you're going to make a
Always.
mistake, fear of a lawsuit,
Yep.
getting hit with it wasn't the same thing every time, right? Instead of when the person calls, you just do this. Now, as you actually had to diagnose yourself, why is this person having trouble swallowing? What kind of traumatic brain injury could they have had? What part of their brain was affected so they can't talk, right?
Yeah, differential diagnosis, keeping an eye out for red flags for potential, neurological issues that I'd maybe have to, refer them to a neurologist so they could go get appropriately checked out. So always having to look really carefully and know my stuff really well.
So you didn't get to be like most people that says, there should just be a person that I should just go to right away and they can answer my question and I shouldn't have to look, right?
No, I was always the self-motivated and self-learner.
There you go. And you had to be in that role, which probably has a lot to do with why you do better in this world we're in now, because you're
Mhm.
not dependent on someone else to solve your problem. But again, you hit a ceiling. You wanted more pay, right?
Yep. Yep.
And
And
that made
and more
you
potential too.
more ability to use skills
Yep.
that you didn't
Mhm.
have. Okay.
Yep.
What I'm getting at here is a few things we can take note from Kyle's story. One, it is not greedy to want more money. In fact, in Kyle's situation, it was his desire for more money that got him out of his comfort zone, which ended up being one of the better things in his life. It allowed him to build more skills, become a better person, develop more character, develop more confidence. All the things we want that make life more fun were the result of pursuing more income.
Mhm.
You never heard Kyle say, well, I really want a Ferrari. I wanted to impress people. I wanted a bunch of girls on my arm. So I needed money, right? It wasn't that. It was other things. But the drive for more income is not something you should feel guilty about. The drive for more income for bad reasons, that is something like I want to buy more cocaine. That would be a bad thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And then if you allow yourself to continue going on that journey, it forced Kyle to build more skills. There was no way around it. And now, as he sits in his current position and he wants to be able to do better, he recognizes I have to build skills. What I'm doing every day is going to work and building skills. Are you having more fun now in general than you were in those previous jobs we talked about?
Way more fun. I'd say 100 times more fun than I was before.
But there's still more fun you want to have than what you're having now.
Just scratching the surface. Absolutely. But like the fact that now I can travel to Scottsdale with you and we can hang out and host retreats and teach people, learn from other people. We can impact people in a different way than I could. I had a ceiling in the terms of the amount of people that I could positively impact because I was limited to one area. Now we've got this much bigger sphere. And so to me, that brings a lot of joy. I'm having a lot of fun, but I recognize that for me to be able to be that influence and to reach that impactful level or reach that income level, it's all dependent on me and how much I grow.
I remember you and I were this year in Hawaii, in Maui, on a canoe, paddling around looking at whales. And you said, like, it's so cool that you bought a condo here and we can come here anytime we want.
Yeah. And we were hanging out with Josh and Brandon.
Yes. And I remember we had gone to Hawaii for the first time right after college, and we stayed at your grandma's condo. So
Mm-hmm.
we liked Hawaii, but we were dependent on somebody else to get us there. Right.
Yes.
And then what happened is we put together a world where we're not dependent on someone else. Like
Mm-hmm.
we can, but then when we go to Hawaii, it still has to be for a purpose. We're looking to recharge. We're looking to team build. We're looking to build a new skill. We're
Yep.
looking to put a David Green team at some point there. Like, I guess what I'm getting at is the fun you have keeps coming if you keep pushing yourself. there's a lie that says buy a bunch of properties and stop. You don't have to work anymore. You don't have to try. You've hit the pinnacle and you're done. You don't have to push yourself. You could just be comfortable. You could try that. You're not going to have any fun. Things are going to go wrong with those properties. You're going to have issues, and you're going to go right back to, I guess I have to build more skills. So like the level of skill you build has a relationship with the level of pain you're in, and the level of skill you build also has a relationship with the level of fun you have. So there's this weird, I don't know what word you want to call it, just enigma of pain equals skills equals fun. And if you try to take the pain out of your life, you end up taking the fun out of your life too.
Yeah.
All right. I'm good if we want to bring somebody in.
Love it. Yeah, let's bring in Dan first, and then we'll get to Sean next, and then try to get to Anissa as well. But so Dan, do you want to come in and share a little bit about what you've been learning in your pain and kind of how it relates to your life? He might have dropped off though. Can you show us your face there, Dan? All right, cool. We're gonna bring you in here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry. I wasn't sure when it was going to start, and so I was just kind of like driving home from work. Actually, I just got off work. I'm a traveling nurse, and I'm going to pull over in just a moment. Yeah, I'm a traveling nurse now. But basically, what you guys were saying a little bit earlier was really like about the basically pain causing you to I know, seek getting out of discomfort and stuff like that. That's basically was me in college when I was deciding to be a nurse. And so, sorry, I'm just pulling over real quick so I can safely talk to you guys on the sidewalk. But all right, now I can focus. But basically, when I was in college, like I basically realized that I was going to either be a nurse for 30 years and then, you know, retire like everyone else, or I discovered this amazing thing that I can't even believe it still exists a lot of times, and it's travel nursing. And so basically you can make like 3 to 4 times what a normal staff nurse makes, and you work the same amount of hours, your hourly pay. The only thing you have to do is just be willing to travel and go and learning new skills, working at a different hospital, I guess every 3 months or so. And to me, that was a small price to pay to be able to like basically be 4 years ahead of somebody else who's like a, just a normal salary, $60,000 a year kind of person. You can make like, 4 times that as a traveling nurse, even more. And so, but a lot of people don't do it because it's very uncomfortable. You have to go to a different hospital every 3 months. You have to learn
new procedures, new coworkers.
I'm in the operating room. I'm in the operating room. You have to like get, unfortunate as it may be, you have to kind of get yelled at by surgeons a lot of times. If you're the new guy, you have to like learn their skills, like learn the way they want their surgery done extremely quickly. And a lot of nurses, I like am dumbfounded. I talk to them and I'm like, you could like, because they'll get upset that I come to the hospital, I'm making 4 times what they're making, but I'm like, you could do this if you wanted to.
Your money without your discomfort.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, oh, but I like my routine. I like coming into the hospital every single day.
Yeah.
And
Dan, let me ask you if this sounds familiar. David, I can't find a house to buy. They're all too expensive. Okay, well, why don't you house hack? You could reduce your mortgage from $3,500 a month down to $500 a month, and you could buy a house in the best neighborhood possible over the next. Oh, I can't do that because I really like my own space. I don't want to have to move. That's a big pain. Does that sound familiar?
No, 100%. Because along with the travel nursing, in my whole life, I have basically never paid for where I lived. Because after I got done like college and I lived with family through college, and then my first purchase after I got out of college, watching Bigger Pockets, I read the Burr book, I read Brandon Turner's book, walked me through my first purchase out of college. I took step by step every single step in the book, and I bought a $200,000 or $190,000 house. It was 3 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. I lived in the basement, which wasn't even a real bedroom. I rented out the 3 bedrooms upstairs. I got paid double my mortgage to live in my house, while I gained up the experience to travel nurse. And like I did this process 4 more times, and now I've bought 5 houses, and I do it every single time. And I live in better neighborhoods each time. I get a low money down payment. My rates are great. And I try to tell everybody to do this, but it's the same thing you just said. They're like, oh, I don't want to live with people. Dude, you have to live with roommates? That sucks. And I'm like, dude, I live for free, and I don't even think like I don't think about like going out to eat. I mean, I'm pretty frugal by nature, but it's like I have so much financial security, like it's almost not even worth it to me to like make a normal, I guess, house purchase or something. I don't know.
Well, we also can agree. Like Dan, you look like you're in pretty good shape, right?
Yeah.
Let's say someone comes to you who's not in good shape, and they're like, "Oh man, it must be nice to be really fit like that, and feel really good, and like have a lot of energy." And you'll try to help. Well, let's talk about what you're eating. No,
Yeah.
no. I don't want to give that up, right?
No, 100%. I am like, I'm not the fittest person in the world, but I do consider myself to be very, very fit. I work out. I go to the gym at least 3
Well,
times
it's
a
pretty
week.
objective. Like we could look at you, we could tell you're not overweight. Like you're a fit
Yeah,
person,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
The point I
But
want to make here is that when it comes to food and fitness, this is a given. No one argues it. No one says must be nice that you get to eat broccoli. Like you could eat broccoli too, right?
yeah,
But when it
exactly.
comes to financial fitness, nobody wants to acknowledge that you don't get to eat comfort food. You eat discomfort food,
No,
right?
100%. And honestly, I like something switches. Like I don't know if this is the same way for you, but something like switches in your mind. Like it doesn't even like, it's not even a burden to me now to eat like beans, rice, and broccoli chicken like every day. Like I just put different spices on it because I do the same thing. I meal prep. It's cheaper, and I feel good. Like it's fuel to my body, and it's like it's not like a detractor to me. Same thing with like the real estate house hacking. It's like every time I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna have the 3-bedroom nice townhouse now, and I'm gonna live in it myself. But then once I move in, I'm like, well, dude, that's 2 bedrooms where I could be making $800 per bedroom, and I could just be going out and having nice dinners. Like it's just something gets rewired in your brain to just, you become like, I guess, entrepreneurial. It's like a switch that flips. I don't know, and you, I guess, get addicted to it, and because it feels good and you're being successful. And I mean, the motivation is always obviously for my family in the future. Like that's what I imagine. Like buying. Brandon Turner said one time he bought like a 15-year mortgage to give to his kids once they're all paid off 15 years down the road. That really was inspiring to me, and I thought the same thing. And I'm like, dude, once my houses are paid off, this is like I'm breaking out of my family cycle. My dad was an immigrant who came from Cuba before me when he was like 13 years old. Came with nothing with his family, and so I always kind of just think it would be a disgrace to me to not use the privileges that I've been given to like be as successful as I can. That's just how I'm wired. I don't know if it's something innate. I think I've heard you talk about this before. I don't know if it's something innate or if it's just something that you practice every day
No,
to
you
develop
just
the
brought
habit.
up it's not innate. It's you just said it. You're the son of an immigrant that came from Cuba that put a value system in you because
Mm-hmm.
they did not look at things the way we do. They did not think it's your employer's job to take care of you. It's your
Yeah.
employer's job to provide your retirement. It's the
Mm-hmm.
government's job to take. They came from a place where there was nothing that you could work your ass off and there didn't matter. There was an opportunity to go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
We're in America where we have almost unlimited opportunity, but we don't have goggles to see it because it's always
Yeah.
been that way. And we're told the opposite. We're told you shouldn't have to slave your life away. You shouldn't have to work so hard. You should have a balanced life. You should have an employer that wants to get behind you and give you a purpose to work for. Like you hear that type of thing all the time. And then you're like, well, I don't see that anywhere. And I see this pop up with investing. If you're under the impression that you should go on Zillow, look at 5 houses, find the one that cash flows, buy it without any competition, make a whole bunch of money because you made one good decision and not have to work hard, it's stupid.
Yeah.
That's like saying I went to the gym one time, it was
Yeah.
really fun, I worked out really hard, and I'm done for the next 5 years. I don't have to work
Yeah.
out. I would love it if the world was designed that way, but
Yeah.
exercise is designed to be something you got to keep doing. And you also have to be uncomfortable when you exercise. The minute you get to where you can bench press that a weight, you got to put more weight on, or you got to do it more times. Like we make a connection that physical fitness involves discomfort and there's no way around it.
Yeah.
But I feel like with financial fitness, there's this resistance to believe that that's the way that it works.
Yeah. No, dude, you're speaking to my heart, everything you just said. Like, I 100% agree. And like, my first couple of houses, like the Zillow, you know how when you look on the house, it like the bright red ones are the ones that you haven't looked at, and the grayed out ones are the ones that you've already looked at. Like everything was gray. Like I had looked at every single house, like in Baltimore. I felt like, in a certain price range that was available. And I had done all the calculation. I had bought the Bigger Pockets calculator, did all the calculations, looked at the returns. I did the same thing with my house when I moved to a different city in Maryland, Frederick, Maryland. And I like, my realtor was looking for houses, but I looked at more than my realtor, and I was like, dude, this house looks like looks like the perfect layout. So I was doing like all of the research. Like, I was researching everything. And so, yeah, you got to be like that. You got to do so much research, and it's really tough, I guess, to pinpoint, I mean, how to get the motivation to do that. But it was just like,
I'll tell you the key to motivation. Brandon Turner, you brought him up. He's a great example.
yeah,
Brandon knows, maybe better than anyone else in my life, how seductive comfort is. Okay.
yeah,
So,
dude.
and Brandon respects the way that the world works. Like, so as I get older, I've learned that it's not so much that there's a lot of like people, there are different philosophies, right? Like, people want to argue over their way. It's people that admit and succumb and submit to the reality that this is the way things are. And there's people that don't want to do that. So they create a creative way of explaining something that doesn't have to acknowledge this is the way things are. Right. Like, like Marxism or something, like socialism. Like, we've created a way to try to justify spreading money around so people don't have to work hard, but nothing else in life works that way. We don't want a basketball team where they spread the playing time around that way. Why do we try to do that with these other things in life, right? So there's people that admit this is the way it works. I got to acknowledge it. And there's people that resist it. They create a delusion in their head and then try to form a bunch of people around them to like support the delusion that don't want to acknowledge it. And Brandon, what he'll do is he'll say, all right, I'm getting out of shape. I need to have my jujitsu guy come to my house and work me out 3 times a week. I'm setting the appointment. I don't want to do this. It's on my calendar. Now, in order for me to not work out today, I have to look that guy in the eye and say, you drove here for no reason, and he won't do it. Right. He'll sign up for a triathlon, and then that will get him to start working out. Brandon just gets that. Like, the more successful you become, the more comfort ekes its way into your life, and the more active you got to be at removing comfort, because removing comfort acknowledges pain. You're not doing out anything, Dan, where you're trying to make yourself feel pain. You've just removed the natural sedation that most people live with. Yeah.
Dude, you're so spot on. And that's honestly a struggle that I've been having recently. And like, comfort is so seductive. Like, but I fought that throughout my travel nursing career. You have to, like, I don't take I've had opportunities to take assignments in the city that I'm in. Like, oh, I travel about an hour commute everywhere because of travel nurse. You have to be over a certain radius because that gets you so much more money. But it's very seductive. Like, now that I have a bunch of houses in the city that I'm living in where I travel from, I'm like, oh, I could work in the hospital in the city. It would be such a less commute, but I would get paid like probably half to a third of what I get paid. And it would just draw back my, it would put a damper on my success like so much, because I have a goal that I'm really, really trying to reach. And you know, so I don't take assignments like that. And also I try not to get sucked in with the comfort of, you know, just living by myself in a house with like 3 or 4 bedrooms. And it you know, not gonna lie, it does end up, as you get more successful, because it becomes so much closer and more easily within reach, it gets more seductive and harder to fight that urge. I'm finding, at least personally, because I'm like, oh, I could actually easily do that now, and I could be okay. But you know, it would, you know,
want some advice for the next stage for you?
Yeah, I won't advance to the next stage as quickly, and I'm trying. I guess it's a balance. I think I've also
here, let me give you some advice for how to get out of this. The better you become at your current system, like travel nursing, it's like when Kyle was telling his story earlier that he got really good at the tech job that or maybe a better example would be his speech language pathologist job. Once he got, the first 3 years were by and he wasn't worried every day about making a mistake or pissing someone off or getting sued and all the problems he had, that's when the comfort starts to creep in, and it will overwhelm you. It will just, as you get more good at your job, skills aren't needed, you get more comforting, and then it gets harder and harder to push it away. And eventually you can't, right? It will overcome you. The only thing you can do when that happens and you recognize I've been overcome is to purposely put yourself in a new environment where all of the skills you have now are not enough. So you may have to move out of being a travel nurse and move into like starting a business on the side while you're a travel nurse that will now require entrepreneurial skills, and your travel nursing thing is your safety net. But you actually have to start a new property management company or become a real estate agent or a loan officer. Something like that will be your next step.
Yeah, 100%. Because a portion of my stuff is room rentals. You can't really get a management company to manage that. So one of the things that I've heard you guys say is to actually hire somebody individually, like hire like your own person and train them up to manage your properties. And that's something that's uncomfortable to me. One, because I'm kind of a control freak about my properties. I like to meticulously take care of them, and I'm like, nobody's going to do it as good as me. And but
they're not. That's
yeah.
true. However, is it in your best interest for you to do it, even if you do it the best? It is right now because you don't have a big portfolio. If I dumped a 200-unit apartment complex on you and said make that profitable, you'd be really easy to be like, okay, someone else needs to deal with this crap.
Yeah.
I got to focus on the bigger challenge. I need new skills, right?
Yeah.
Because if I dumped a 200-unit apartment complex on you, you would now be very uncomfortable.
Oh yeah,
right.
Definitely.
And that's what I'm saying is by putting yourself in a new environment, all the stuff that we're like, I don't want to let this go. I'm comfortable doing it myself becomes very easy to let go.
Yeah. And so I think that's one of the things that I really have to work on over the next probably like couple months to a year or so is like getting over that because I'm getting to the point now where it would probably be so much more beneficial for me to hand off the management side of like dealing with the tenants and like finding contractors to find repairs or doing little things like that, basically managing the properties, and just focus on making as much money as I can travel nursing and plowing that money into more and more and more rentals. I think that would just
and better rentals and bigger rentals.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Getting out of your comfort zone on the type of rental that you're buying.
Yeah,
that principle never goes away. Every single time we start to get discontent or we realize like, oh, I'm not getting what I want, it's because we slowly got comfortable.
Yeah, and I'm really trying to work on that. Same, just it's a process. So I mean, I totally know what I have to do. It's just, that's another mental switch that I really have to make. And I've been thinking about it. I've been talking about it with my family a lot. Just like, I really need to get somebody. So
you should consider joining our mastermind. That's something that the members challenge each other with all the time.
Okay, cool. And where is it on your website, I guess?
There you go. Okay, I'll just put the link up right there. Yeah. Okay. Most people don't even know I have a website because by the time I actually made one, no one uses them. What's a good analogy of what a website is?
And I know you have a podcast, and then I don't know how I ended up finding your YouTube channel. You might have mentioned it on your podcast, and then I came over to the YouTube channel. But yeah, dude,
thanks, man. We're glad that you joined.
Checking it out.
Yeah, thanks. It was so good to talk. It's so good to actually like talk to you because it's like I listen to you all the time. I've read your book and everything, and listened to you. It's just yeah. So thank you so much for everything you do. Like I said in the beginning and throughout my process, you and Bigger Pockets have motivated me to just, my life has changed, dude. Like even now, if I was to never buy another property, like I'm going to be more successful than my dad ever was. It's just, I've broken the cycle of like my family and like gotten more like successful than I feel like he ever thought that I would. And it's just amazing. And I owe it almost solely to Bigger Pockets just for giving me the steps to like, to take, and really for you, the Burr method and like just all of your deep, insightful talk. So I really appreciate it.
Deep and insightful. Thank you, Kyle. Do you remember the line that you said about me when we were like 20 years old?
Yes. When you mean like, I think it was the night that I proposed to my wife, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I think we were out walking in San Francisco among the pier. It was dark and foggy, and David was going to help me kind of.
Yeah, we had it set up where she didn't know, and we were making it seem like we were on a double date. But I really just brought the photographer as my date. And then Kyle was going to surprise his wife, and we were going to be there to take the pictures so that they'd have it forever.
Yeah. And then I think somebody said, wow, David said something about something. I don't remember what it was. And somebody said, wow, David, that's really deep and profound. And I responded back, well, yeah, everything that David says is deep and profound.
Because I didn't make small talk. I don't think it was meant to be a compliment. You're like,
you're
just like, talk unless it's that.
Yeah. Let's cut around the small talk. Let's just get straight to the meat and potatoes here.
That's funny. That line, everything David says is deep and profound. Like, it was very funny what Kyle said. All right, let's bring in our next person here. I think either Anissa or Sean, whoever's been waiting longer.
Let's bring in Sean. We can kind of go two ways. It's kind of funny. The whole topic of today's conversation was about how much fun you're having in real estate, and yet it kind of took a left turn and focused on pain. And obviously there's a connection between the two. But
yeah, you guys are welcome to ask me more questions about how I'm having fun if you want to talk about it. It takes that left turn because my heart goes out to everybody who's here, that I see the questions they're asking. and they're oftentimes just asking the wrong question.
Mm-hmm.
They're saying, how do I find the property that's going to cash flow so that I don't have to change anything about my life? How do I take the $10,000 that I have saved up and become a multimillionaire with that? That is not a thing that you can do. This is the person who's like morbidly obese, and they're saying, how do I get a 6-pack in the next 2 months? Right? Like you don't, right? You got to ask a different question. They should be saying, how did I get in the situation where this is what I eat? Who's around me that is enabling me to eat this much food? And asking different questions will get different results. And so I'm also, though, still happy. I mean, life's a lot of fun right now. I'm having a lot of fun investing, and I'm happy to talk with you guys more about that.
But you went through a lot of pain to get there. So that's
really, that's exactly right.
Let's bring on Anissa here. Well, Anissa, can you turn on your camera for me if you're still there? If not, we'll jump to Sean and maybe try to switch over. All right, let's go to Sean. Sean, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be in the presence of such greatness as David Green here. So it's pretty awesome.
Deep and profound.
But yeah, I mean, shoot, starting on this video, I put in something about short-term rentals and that's what I started with our real estate gig that we're kind of doing right now. But then it switched over to paying, which, this year's kind of been a roller coaster for me. So I guess the biggest thing, I mean, it started out like, David, I kind of relate to you a lot because the beginning of this year was where I kind of left the law enforcement world. I spent 10 years in law enforcement, and, you can tell now I'm not exactly in the law enforcement get up, but during from 2019 to 22, I was actually the police chief for our small agency.
Wow.
And
are you the youngest police chief in the history of the country?
Probably, I think so. I went to a couple of chief conferences. I'm in South Carolina, and I definitely was by far the youngest guy in.
So are you in one of those really small departments where there's like 6 cops and the chief has to go to calls for service too?
Yeah, we were 14, and I was running calls with them too. I mean, we had a couple of things. I mean, small agency and everything, but I live in the city that I was working in, so I had an opportunity to make a huge impact, and we did great things, and an enormous amount of work went into an effort and everything, and I cared for all the people that worked for me and worked with and everything, and but politics are just kind of it's a moving target. It's hard to hit something like that.
So what's on your mind? What would you like to talk about? You want to talk about how much fun you're having, how you could have more fun, pain? What you got?
Yeah, well, so I guess let me start with the question. We started our real estate business with a short-term rental. We did a Airbnb. It was just that I hadn't even listened to Bigger Pockets at that point. Like, I was just trying to kind of find something to supplement the law enforcement income, and had a ton of fun doing it. Realized real quick that you could actually make a whole lot more money. So since I lost my job at the beginning of the year, I have ended up tripling my income just by doing real estate and staying in the grind on it. But the biggest thing was on the short-term rental, because it seems like the whole thing's getting really saturated, and there's a ton of people that are all of a sudden like, I want a short-term rental, I want to do Airbnb. It's kind of moving towards like a unique stay. Like you're talking about your place that you just got. That's a very unique thing. It's not something, it's a destination that you're going to, not just a house that you throw a couple of furniture in and everything. So my question was, which way do you see short-term rentals really going, and what should people be aiming for if they're going to set this up?
All right. How much of do you want me to give you why don't I do this? Let me give you the big picture of where I see them going, and then I'll let you jump back in and ask me which area you want to focus on.
That sounds good.
Because I tend to do this. Kyle will acknowledge it. I start talking, and then I just go way further than what I needed to. Like, it has to go deep and profound, right? I think the first step in the short-term rental game is that they are going to become oversaturated. You're going to get so many people rushing into this space that the people that were dominating and crushing it in the last 5 to 6 years are going to find it a little bit harder, but they're going to be okay because they have all the reviews, and they probably bought their house for half as much as it costs now. So their cost of ownership is much more. They can run a more lean business. The people getting into it now are going to have a very hard time. They're going to be paying more for the same house. Like my assistant Krista was in here talking about my Hawaii properties. she was asking me if they're profitable because we had 2 bad months. And I was like, I paid like 550,000 for those that are worth about $1 million now. So if you were like, oh, David's in Hawaii, I want to go buy there, you're paying almost $1 million for what I paid for 550. My mortgage is so much less than you at such a lower interest rate. I can out compete with you. I can keep my prices lower if we're fighting, and you can't. You have to charge a certain amount, right? So at many levels, it's very difficult for people coming into the short-term rental space right now because they're not going to rank as high in the algorithm. They don't have the reviews, they don't have the systems, and they paid more money. So first step is going to be new people getting into the short-term rental space are going to have a harder time. Why would you guess, Sean, that I think more people are coming into the short-term rental space than anywhere else?
Well, I guess the difference in the amount of money you can cash flow. I mean, that was the biggest thing for me.
Okay, so if you had the
you can't
option
make the
of
numbers
getting a
work.
short-term rental that was going to be a headache and cash flow at 15%, or you could get a long-term rental that was going to be super smooth and easy to cash flow at 10%, which one would you pick? If you're an average person working a full-time job, not you, who's an ambitious
you're not going to want to
police
mess with
chief
this.
at
You're
25
going to want to
years
have
old.
that passive. You're
Most
going to want to
people
be
will,
able to,
right?
Yeah.
So that's the way it would normally go. The reason it's not going that way is there is no 10% passive income option anymore. It's what everyone on the chats here saying. I can't find cash flow. It doesn't cash flow. Very little cash flows. So you have two roads, okay? You're in Lord of the Rings and you're walking on the mountain and there's this big evil monster that's coming. You could either take the high road, which is the short-term rental market, which is very difficult. You kind of got to spend more money than you want. It's not passive. It's like buying a business. You're going to have to build new skills. Or you got the low road, which would be like going down into the mountain, which is easier. And that means you're going to go into rural Indiana and buy a $60,000 pig and try to make that work. Okay. So you have some of the people that are taking the low road and they're like, oh, I still find cash flowing rentals. I found one bought it for $48,000 and they're all mad because they can't refinance it because no lender wants to lend on a $48,000 house. And then you got the other people that are going the short-term rental space. Like that whole middle area, there isn't anything there. It's very difficult to work out. So I would expect both of those markets to see significant growth. You're going to get more turnkey companies that are selling houses in the Midwest. You're going to get more like hedge funds that are kind of like starting to compete in those areas. And you're going to get more investors that go buy there. And that's probably going to push rents down in those areas too, or make it harder for them to come up because investors are going to be the only people buying those homes. Right? The $48,000 house seems super cheap, and it is super cheap. Believe it or not, the people that are renting that $48,000 house that are paying $400 or $500 or $600 a month for rent will never be able to buy it. Otherwise, they would. They're not able to because of the income that they make and the issues that they have. And I'm not trying to stereotype here, but just imagine the human being that can't get qualified to buy a house with a $500 mortgage payment. Okay.
Yeah.
They're troubled. They're not the tenants that you want to have. I heard some people in the chat here talking about how like, X amount of tenants are problematic. They get more problematic the deeper you get into that asset category because everyone would rather own than buy. They just can't, right? Then you get in the other area, which is a short-term rental. So both get saturated. That's really the point that I'm trying to make. The next step is that the big money that sort of backed itself out of the environment. And I know I'm going high level. I just want you guys to understand why you're getting value here if you don't realize it. Macroeconomics is very, very, very important. It affects real estate investing so much. There's so many people that think we're in a recession and the prices are going to crash. And they treat the money that was flooding the economy, if we imagine it as water, they treat it like it's evaporated. It just disappeared. It was here and it's gone. So the water levels have gone down and the economy is going down and GDP is going down. And we're heading to a bigger crash where prices are going to adjust really low because there's no more water left. It didn't, Sean. It was pulled out of the reservoir and it's being kept behind a dam. And there's a shit ton of it that sorry for my French there, that all the wealthy people have. They're on the other side of that dam and they pulled all their money out and they are waiting for what we keep calling the crash. They're waiting for it to come down and down and down, and then they're going to step in and buy all of it. It will amaze people how quickly this recession that we're talking about, where you hear so many influencers saying it's a depression like we've never seen. This is us kicking the can down the road. It's going to be 10 times bigger than the one before. It won't. It won't. Prices will come down on these asset classes, and the money will flood in, and people will be shocked at how fast it went from, I think the whole economy is going to crash, to what the heck, everybody's buying houses again. That I've seen it happen enough cycles now. And I know the money didn't disappear. It was pulled out of the reservoir. It will come in with a vengeance and the market will turn around just like that. There's just too much money. So you'll see that happen. And the people that have that money in that reservoir that I'm describing are hedge funds and venture capitalists and private equity and people that are much smarter, and they're not watching me on YouTube. They're not one of the 70 people that's here on a Friday night. Okay. They are good with money. And you will see these companies that form that go buy up vacation rentals from the people like me that own them. And they're not going to go pay the appraised value of the house. They're going to buy it based on its cash flow. They're going to look at it like it is a commercial property. They're going to say, man, David's property over here makes $200,000 a year. His operating expenses are this much money. His interest rate's 8%, but we could borrow money at 1.5% because we spend so much of it. David's management costs are this much, but we own a management company that we bought. So he may pay 20%, 25% for management. It's only going to be 6% for us because we own the company. We can run it at cost. Mm-hmm. So we can go buy this property at a price that's ridiculously high and still make more money than David is. So let's say that house appraises at 1.5. They may come in and say, we'll give you $3 million for it. And I probably won't sell it to them, but how many people do you think will? Right? So you're going to get what was oversaturated. You're going to see hedge funds move in and suck all this inventory out of the market that now I would have sold that house for 1.5 and Sean would have had a chance to buy it and you would have got to cut your teeth at that property and I would have moved my money into something bigger. That's the natural cycle of how these investment asset classes work. We took that piece off the chessboard. It will never come back again. They will own it forever. So you're going to see this like, man, the market should be crashing. Why isn't it crashing? And then boom, what the heck? I thought it was going to crash. Everybody's buying these houses. And then boom, hedge funds are taking them from the people that own them. And those people made a bunch of money and they got to put their money somewhere. And that's going to be the next bubble. They're probably going to go buy multifamily apartment complexes because where else are you going to go put $1.5 million of equity that you got a 1031 into something? The only thing that would stop what I think will happen from happening is if they remove the 1031 and I got to pay taxes on that $1.5 million. That's probably not going to happen. Right.
Yeah. But so many people would lose money off of that too.
That's the problem.
The people that make that decision.
That's a terrible decision. You're right. Because if you got rid of the 1031 thinking you're gaining taxes, A, I don't sell. And B, if I don't sell, the realtor loses their commission and there's income taxes on all of this. The realtor commission, the loan commission, the title officer, the escrow officer, the home warranty company, the person who makes the DocuSign documents that you're going to be paying for, the contractor, the home inspector, the appraiser, the roof inspector, the pest inspector. All of those people made income every time a house changes hands. You just sucked all of that out of the economy because you thought you were going to be greedy and get more money out of the 1031. It won't work. You're right.
That's not how it works.
So that's my overall picture of what I think will happen is the lower end rentals will get sucked up they're already getting sucked up. If you guys don't know how these hedge funds work, they're buying a ridiculous amount of property. They're taking it off the table. It will never exist again. If you don't operate at a high level in this space, this is why I keep saying you guys have to understand macroeconomics. You're thinking that there's less houses on Zillow. I don't know what it is. It's because wholesalers are never letting them hit the MLS. Realtors are never getting their hands on it to put out there for you to see. The wholesalers going to Sean, who has a $140,000 house in Cleveland, Ohio, and they're saying, we'll give you 155. And he's like, why? Why would you ever give me that much money? We'll do it. We'll close in cash in 2 weeks. He goes, shoot, here you go. And then they're going to the hedge fund and saying, we'll give it to you for 175. And that hedge fund is buying the $110,000 house for $175,000 because they're buying it with 1.5% debt. And they know over the next 20 years, it's going to double and they can play that game and Sean can't. So they're sucking up all this inventory and all we get is like, man, it seems like there's a lot less houses out there. It must be because a recession is coming. It's because the huge institutional money is taking it off the table. So I think in the future, that's already happening. That will keep happening. They will also get into the vacation rental space. They have so much capital that has to be deployed because we made too much of it with quantitative easing and it went to them. The questions they ask are, how do I spend $5 million? Not, is that house worth $5 million, right? If the question is, how do I spend $5 million? The answer is often buy an apartment complex. Well, it's only worth 4.6. We need to spend the $5 million. It'll be worth more than that later. Just buy it, right? Well, go buy that luxury property on the beach right? That huge place that used to be some Hollywood director that owns, we can rent that thing out, make $100,000 a month in short-term rental income. We can pay 3 times what it's worth, because to us, the cash flows are higher than if we put that same money into the stock market or into some business that's going to fail. And by the way, we can leverage the property and get that money back out for the next chance if we want. We can't do that with everything else. So I'll let you, that's what I think is going to happen with the big picture. I'll let you ask about the specifics.
Well, shoot, I mean, that really it went past just, wide short-term rental, because, I was focusing more on, well, me taking my family somewhere, you can only travel so much until you run out of money and you got to go back to work. So that, and a lot of the people that I saw in my short-term rental that I had at the beginning, they were in the transition between, they were selling their house because the market was so high and they got tons of money for it. And then they're like, well, now I'm going to go build a house, and put all this money into it. But then they realized that it's so much more expensive to build the house. And so they stayed in the short-term rental because that was the best they had, because there wasn't, they're not going to stay in a hotel, but they could get something similar in the short-term rental. So I really kind of hit that midterm rental is what really ended up happening with our place. But since then, I mean, I sold that short-term rental the beginning of the year as a business, pretty much. So essentially the same thing that you just talked about. I sold it to a friend of mine that has been investing for a little bit longer, and we made good money on it. But
you want me to give you another prediction of what I think is going to happen in the future?
Yeah, I'm probably going to go buy that short-term rental back from them.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea if it's in a good area. Here's what do you think, Sean, is one of the biggest detriments to the short-term rental industry, like taking over even more? What's holding it back from expanding even more?
I mean, one thing, I guess if I'm looking at more of people's, how people are thinking, right now, the fear of the inflation going up, people may be recoiling a little bit on.
Okay, so that's a good point. That's real estate as a whole, right? I mean, specifically in the short-term rental space.
Why people aren't investing in it, or why
you don't have more homes being turned into short-term rentals? Why there's not more inventory coming on? Because that makes the house worth so much more.
Oh, wow. I mean, I don't know.
Anybody in the chat have an idea? If they can see, like, what are some of the constricting factors that hold back the short-term rental market? Like, one potential could be, well, what if people stop traveling, right? Well, nobody wants them anymore. That's not the case. In general, there's plenty of people traveling, and even if your occupancy is only at 10%, only at like 10 days out of the 30-day month, you'll still make money. Gabriel got it.
Well, what about like hotels? Hotels are taking, that's the short-term rentals cutting into their profits.
Yeah. So, but that's a great point, right? Hotels are the people that would create the city restrictions and the laws. They would pressure the lawmakers to shut them down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who else pressures lawmakers to shut down short-term rentals? Who doesn't like them? Right? You got it perfect when you're saying city regulations, right? Now take it another step deeper. Who pressures the city?
Neighbors.
Does anyone like a short-term rental in their neighborhood? Right. So you got hotels that are like, screw this. So what are the areas where you guys would typically think the hotel industry is the strongest? What are some cities or areas? Go ahead, Sean.
Well, shoot. I mean, you were talking about the Smoky Mountains and everything. I mean, Gatlinburg and all that.
But there's hardly any hotels there. They don't have a strong
that whole area
hotel
is filled
industry
with short-term rentals because all the cabins are all over the place.
That's right. So right. I'm asking for the opposite, right? Vegas, New York City. What's another island that you guys have seen me buy on that might have a lot of hotels and a strong hospitality industry? What do you think, Sean?
Yeah,
Honolulu, Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
Anywhere that you have very strong hotel lobbyists, because there's like Vegas, they're going to put pressure on lawmakers to not allow for short-term rentals. So this is one way that, you guys are getting it exactly right. If the hotel lobby area is strong, don't buy there. Not short-term rentals. They're only going to last for so long, and then they're going to take them away. The other area they get pressure from the city, you guys, Kyle said it, is neighbors. Neighbors don't like this thing. That is a very strong force that is holding the short-term rental industry to expanding everywhere. We typically see the most conservative cities have the most profitable short-term rentals because they're full of capitalists and conservative-minded people that are like, nope, the highest and best use of the property, let the free market play. Scottsdale, there's actually a law in Arizona that says an individual city is not allowed to tell someone how they can use their house or not. You are not allowed to create a regulation that stops short-term rentals from happening, because Paradise Valley was a city that shut them down, and then the state of Arizona came back and said, no, you cannot do that, and now they're open back up. All right. Arizona's super conservative. I've actually never seen as many angry conservatives in my life as when I went to Scottsdale. It's like a particular brand because they're pissed. Like that's like where all the angry ones end up going.
Here in South Carolina, the upstate, I mean, don't mess with us down here is kind of how it is. So,
but they're probably more like specific to South Carolina, I would think. Right. It's these guys are just like, don't mess with. They're very wealthy. It's like a different kind of, it's a different brand of the same thing, right? So I feel comfortable buying in Arizona because I don't think that regulation's coming. Do you think that's how New York works? Absolutely not. Strong hotel lobbyists, more of a liberal-minded political environment. They're not going to like people like us making money off of houses when someone that works at the toll booth can't afford it anymore. We got to change the system to stop that from happening so that person can get an affordable house. They're going to say no. What I think will change at some point is that loans will be made. And I'm like, with my partner, we're working on seeing if like there's a way we can get this to happen, that will give you a 30-year fixed rate loan that is based on the income of the property, not the comparable approach. I don't care what the neighbor's house sold for. That really applies if the person wants to live there themselves. There's no logical reason we should value houses that way. I know we've always done it. Everyone hearing this right now is like, well, that's just the way it is. There's a reason it's the way it is, because it used to be if Tom and Mary were buying a house, they didn't want to overpay. Well, how do you know if you overpaid? Right? Because Dick and Sheila across the street only pay this much. So that's what the value, it doesn't make any objective sense. That it just makes subjective sense. And that's why we came up with the comparable approach. Well, if you could get loans based off this property has made this much money in the last 5 years, it's worth $2.5 million, not $1.5 million. It's worth $900,000, not $400,000 if it's used as a short-term rental. What does that do to the price of all the other homes in the neighborhood that are still using the comparable approach? If the house goes for
drives up their comps too.
And what happens is now you get those neighbors that don't like the Airbnbs do like that their house just doubled in value and might take some of that pressure off the city, or enough of them over time are like, no, we want this happening because our houses become worth more. And they just create regulation within the short-term rental industry, not within the city. So you can't have this many people go. I think in the future, Airbnb will have rules set up where, like, instead of just the host being like evaluated and scored, the guest will be. You leave that place a big mess. You try to have a party there. The host will give the guest a score. And now when someone wants to rent your house and they have 2 out of 5 stars, you tell them no. Just like it's right now, it's the opposite way around. I think the industry will evolve in that direction. And more people will be okay with short-term rentals. They will make all the other houses in the neighborhood worth more, and boom, city regulations go away. So when you consider,
you think there'll be lending that starts to come up? I mean, now
Jaleesa here mentioned DSCR loan. By the way, at the one brokerage, Kyle, if you could throw that up, we do these DSCR loans all the time. Okay, here's the problem with what Jaleesa's not talking about the same thing as me. A DSCR loan will use the income of a property to qualify Sean to buy it. So anybody who's here, your debt to income isn't strong, email us and we can get you approved in most cases using the income of the property. Okay.
I actually went through the one brokerage and just got my BRRRR done through you guys. So
right on, man. Who's your loan officer?
Shoot, I don't remember exactly what his name was. That was probably 6 months ago that we did it. So I guess it was before it was the one brokerage is kind of what it was. So.
Oh, I see. When we were sort of like trying to make it happen, you'll have a much better experience now, or even if it was good, because we've got 6 more months of experience and more defined things.
I've got another one I'll be coming your way then with.
Thanks, man. Make sure you do. And you say I was on David's YouTube live so that they can connect you with me. What we're talking about isn't we're not talking about the income of the property approving Sean to afford the house. We are talking about a situation where the loan Because even if Sean can afford a house of $2.5 million, the appraisal still comes in at $1.5 million. So he can't buy it. He's approved to pay that much money, but the house isn't valued at that because of comparables. I'm talking about a loan that wouldn't care. The appraisal would not be based on what the comparables are for. If there's something like that comes into our industry, which is, again, all that money behind me in the reservoir that's dying to find a place to go, I would not be surprised. I realize, guys, this is like so futuristic. I don't want to confuse people with this. I'm just trying to prepare you so when that water comes, you're in the right place. You're not drowning. You're in a better position. And when that does happen, or if that does happen, it makes all the other houses in the neighborhood worth more, and it removes a lot of the regulation. Okay, so now that could open up the doors for the regular person like us to get back into the short-term rental game. When the hedge funds were buying up all the best stuff, they're still going to buy the best stuff, but we will have some way, and it will turn into much more like a bed and breakfast. I think you'll see that moving. It'll move back into that thing where it's not just a vacation rental house. People come stay there and they want more than just that, right? You've got like a masseuse that's included, and you're going to cook them food, or you're going to have a chef that shows up. Like, it's going to turn more into a business and less of passive income.
Yeah, but that's the fun part of it. I mean, I love talking with my guests and everything. I mean, you learn so much. You met so many different people. So, I mean, that would be exciting to get back into that.
You like that, Sean, right? Because you're that kind of guy. But look at all the people that are saying, "Oh, I can't find a cash flowing property." Hey there, what's your name?
This is Emma. Say hi.
Hi, Emma.
Hi, Emma.
Yeah, so you like that side of it. A lot of people don't, right? Someone like me, I don't want to talk to the guests. I don't want to know that they're there. I want someone else dealing with all of it. I want to hire Sean to manage my short-term rental portfolio, right? Hopefully you're looking for a job at some point and we can talk about that. Because I don't want to deal with it, right? So what happens as the industry changes is it creates opportunity for the right humans. It lets Sean get into the short-term rental space. It pushes the Davids out of that space, and it gets me into another situation. And knowing this, you can position yourself, if you're listening to this video, in the area where you'll have an advantage, right? Like Sean would probably be terrible. You probably would hate it to try to get into multifamily space 10 years ago. Like, just sit at a cubicle, don't talk, look at the spreadsheet, punch in the numbers. You would be hating that, right? Even though that market did well, it would be very difficult for you to be making a living doing that, and you'd hate what you were doing, right? Yeah. So you should put yourself in the next 10 years. This is where I think the short-term rental space is going. This is a good place for me to be. The multifamily space would not be. And I'm saying that because people ask the question of which asset class is going to go up the most, as opposed to asking the question of which asset class am I the best fit for. It's a different type of question.
Yeah. Well, man, it's been a pleasure to talk with you. I think my kids are going to take over my time right now. So
taking over the show.
Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, they're taking over the show. But either way, great advice. It's been a pleasure to talk with you guys. Definitely a long time up to this point. I've been listening to you for a while, so keep it up. You. Learning a lot.
Let's stay in touch.
See you, Sean.
See y'all.
By the way, I want to just make a reminder to everybody here. If you guys are getting value out of this, couple things that we would appreciate. Number one, if you're getting value, which I know a lot of you that are hanging out, there's 77 people here on a Friday night. Don't forget to hit the like button. That's super important. One of David's big goals is to grow this live and be able to talk to as many people as we can. But also make sure you subscribe too. And the second thing really is, if you guys are getting a ton of value out of this too, make sure you take a picture with your phone. Tag David, tag the David Green team on it, tag myself, and we'd love to get the word out to as many people as we can that would get value out of this. Yeah,
that would be awesome. We want to bring in Anissa. I think that they've been waiting the longest, and they're coming in the end.
Yeah, we appreciate it. They had a little bit of a power surge here a minute ago, but yeah, we have Dan and Anissa, and they're going to come in and chat a little bit about what they're doing and what their goals are. So welcome to the stream, Dan and Anissa. You guys are on mute, so you might need to unmute yourselves there.
Hi.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hey there.
Thank you so much for doing this and for seeing us. Yeah. We're part of your older crowd, so that's why we're available on a Friday night.
There you go. Hey, why are you calling me old? Because I'm available on a Friday night.
Probably a little older than you.
So, so you were talking a little bit about, gaining skill sets and all of that stuff. And we sort of feel like we kind of, at this age, we run a successful business in this sort of market of doing full service kind of interior design. And so but because of where we are in life, I think that it's a small business, but it's like, it really is still just a job, because I'm just working for clients all day long. And so we're helping clients do sort of, the goal, I guess, would be to figure out a way to do what we love to do, my passion, what I love to do, which is like creating spaces and beautiful interior design, but do it for ourselves and not necessarily for clients all day long. And so that's where I've been trying to push, saying like maybe short-term rentals is the way to go. And then what you just said about the short-term rentals, I guess it makes me kind of excited, but then also nervous at the same time, of that there is such an oversaturation in it right now. So, and then I think Don's fear is maybe because of, we're not 25. Would it be just smarter for us to just maybe keep growing a portfolio of like long-term rentals?
Where you were asking is which situation fits us best for growth going forward.
Okay.
Because we already have three we own 3 homes. They're all 3 cashing at this point. We have one that want to move on. We're securing funding for it, or attempting to secure funding for it. I'll probably be in touch with you later through your email address to see how we do this, because we have a property in another multifamily, a 4-bedroom or an 8-bedroom rather, that we can basically double our cash flow each month, very quickly.
We sort of accidentally stumbled on this college rental
market.
Our daughter goes to LSU, and so we bought a house there for her to live in her sophomore year, and we just we found this great house. We built this amazing sort of like you say, like a team of Avengers out there in Baton Rouge. And because I do what I do, it was super easy for us to just design it from 1,500 miles away.
We remodeled a home in the middle of the pandemic for her to move into.
And so she basically lives for free. We rent out the other 5 bedrooms, and right. I mean, we're making a killing, and she's living for free.
So the question is, which strategy makes the most sense for you guys to pursue?
I mean, that's why we're here, is to ask you.
Yes. This is the part. What do you think? We got all the pieces of the puzzle. We just don't know how they fit together. We need somebody to.
What would you do?
All right, let's go through the right questions to ask so everybody can learn from this, right? Okay. When you're in the situation of what's the best route for me to take, what are some of the things that you think should be considered in that equation?
I mean, I guess time is probably a big.
How much time you have to commit to every deal, or do you mean how much time you have to get to your goal?
Well, both, I guess, because of where we are. Like I said, I'm 50. Don's 54. We don't want to do this forever. We would like, but again, I could do this forever. I want to do it forever,
but not.
We don't.
Is there any urgency that you have to get to a certain level of cash flow, like you won't physically be able to work and you'll be in a financial hardship?
Not really. I mean,
okay, that's good. Yeah. That means there's less pressure on you. You can make a better decision. Yes. Like there's less doors closed. That's why I'm asking that question, right? Okay. Some people just, nope, if I can't get to this point by this point, I won't be able to work anymore. And so you have to kind of like make tougher decisions. So that's good. So when we're talking about, time, like how much do we want to spend investing in managing these properties, right? Yes. Okay. What are some other questions that we think should be considered?
Well, I think what we're finding our biggest hurdle is we just keep spending so much of our own capital to do what we've, basically funded $300,000 on that remodel of our own cash. And then every time we buy something, it's like, it's more of our cash being deployed. It's like,
that's
I'm basically just working to like build up a lot and
so you can only buy so many houses because you only have so much capital, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So I would say if that's the case,
we have some liquid. We're just getting into a point where we have some liquid, but we don't want to keep, giving away our savings account to add the next thing in the portfolio.
Well, the worst thing an investor can do is get really good at a strategy and then run out of money right when they got good at it.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons I'm a proponent for Burr, because ideally you don't run out of money, right? You may leave some money in that deal, but like I'm running into this problem right now. I think Christian might still be on the call. I'm getting properties and the market is shifting a little bit, and the lenders are coming back and saying you got to put 30% down on every house. And if you're buying $1.5 million houses, you got to put 30% down. Then you got to go furnish them. Then you got to go make the repairs. You run out of money really fast, right? Like,
yes,
it doesn't matter how wealthy someone is. You can't keep buying a couple houses a month at that rate. So now I got to change the strategy. That's what we talk about. Is like, okay, that sucks. So I'm going to have to figure out certain properties. I can only buy something if it becomes a BRRRR. I got to be able to pull money out of that deal. So like by Christian and I having the right conversation, it becomes, how do I get money out of the deal? All right, I'm going to have to add value to the property and refinance it. Okay, now what loan product would work if that's what I want to do? He'd come back and say, you got to do a bridge product. And here's a benefit of the bridge product. If you can borrow the rehab money, you can if the home appraises for more than what you paid, you can borrow against that amount, not the one you did. So the strategy shifts based on, like, for me, the lending chokeholds. You guys are giving me the examples of, we only have so much time, we only have so much capital. And by asking these questions, I'm going to walk you guys through like what options you have. But in that way, you're going to be similar to me. If you don't have just $7 million sitting in the bank and you're like, how do I deploy this money? You have to be more efficient with it, which means you're going to have to only buy properties that you can add value to and refinance later, right? So you should definitely be working with us, because we're the best you're going to find, because they got to do this for me, right? Like, we've already figured out all these different products, because I got the same problem. So now half of this problem is going to be, how do I add value to a property, which I don't think scares you guys, because like you said, you're good with design. You're not afraid to get your hands dirty. So you can go out there and look for the properties that need a little bit of love. All right. And I'll give you some advice before we finish. Don't let me forget to tell you what to look for. The other half of the problem is it's got a cash flow. You don't want to lose money just because you have a lot of equity. Okay. Now that's going to change how things go. Like, there may be short-term rentals that will cash flow, but they won't work as far as adding value. There may be adding value properties that won't work as a short-term rental, so it won't cash flow. Okay. Your rent by the room model is almost guaranteed to cash flow. It's probably the most consistent, solid way to make sure you get high cash flow.
It's sort of like we're house hacking, but like we kind of are making our kids do it so that we don't have to.
And the reason more people don't do it, or the reason that I don't do it, is it's just higher time. You got to put more time into managing every single tenant, right? But if I had a person that could do that on my team, like if I had a property manager that worked for me, which I'm trying to hire, and they were good at that, I would buy rent by the room nonstop. I'd go to the highest markets I could get, the best neighborhoods, the best areas, buy the house that has 5,000 square feet and is listed as a 3-bedroom and has 5 bathrooms. And I would turn the garage into rooms. I would turn the dining room into rooms. I would turn everything is a room, right? And I would rent it out by the room and turn it into a hotel.
I'll tell you, the college rental market, it's kind of a no-brainer when it comes to that, because these kids,
multifamily that we're looking at, we have it's a, like I said,
they can walk to the college. Their parents all guarantee it. They pay their rent on time, and they honestly like. But right now we have our daughter that lives in Baton Rouge, so she's able to.
Well, we can collect rents. I mean, that part I think we got a really good strategy as far as that goes.
So that's what I'm leaning at. I think you guys should supercharge that. You're good at it.
It just doesn't tick that like design box for
Yeah, like, because you're gonna have to. Is your name Anissa? I'm sorry,
Anissa. Yes,
Anissa. You're gonna have to find properties that are ugly and big. Like, you can't just go buy a turnkey house and say, I'm going to rent it out by the room. You got to go look for the house that's like, no one wants it because it used to be an assisted living facility, or if someone built it as a private home and then their kids moved out. And I look for those all the time. They're ugly. They're fugly. They don't work for any normal purpose. Like, I bought one in an area in California called Moraga, which is a super nice area. Like, it's east of San Francisco. So imagine you work at a company in San Francisco and you make $2 million a year, but you don't want to be stepping in feces every day. So you go live here. It's like in a wooded mountainside type of a thing. You would never think this was California when you just see us from the outside. It was listed at 2.65. It sat forever until it expired because the floor plan was terrible and it was ugly. I went and bought it at 2.2. But it's still appraised at 265 because people don't always realize like the appraised value and what the market will support are not the same. They often are, Probably 70% of the time they are, but in this case, they're not, right? Now I'm going in and I'm doing what you guys are doing. I'm taking the basement and the garage and turning it into living area, turning that into like a 2-1. And then I'm splitting the house that is currently a horrible floor plan into separate units that I can rent to college kids that go to St. Mary's College. Okay. So the design element you've got would be applicable in this scenario, right? And it's not just designing the interior. It's also like, where do we move the bedrooms? Where do we frame the walls? We need another bathroom. How do we set this up so that we can do the bathroom near the laundry room so that the plumbing's right there? And then where do we put the door? Like you're going to have to play with this, which I think you like doing.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's what I do all day. I mean,
that's what we did with the house and the house of our daughter.
And not many people can do that.
A lot to do it. So it's just,
you guys have a unique skill set that other people don't have, right? So you got a competitive advantage. You're willing to put the time into managing these properties that other people aren't. You're familiar with that asset class. And it works because you can go buy these houses at under market value that are just fugly, fix them up, refinance them later, get your capital out, and you can keep going. I knew this was the answer when you guys told me like short-term rental or this. I just had to walk you through my logic so that you would understand it.
The other, I guess, question, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but like, is it not smart for us to, because we built this team, we live in Southern California. So unfortunately, we don't live in a market where it's conducive for us to, I mean, we're looking at,
easy to travel.
We're in Newport Beach. You're looking at $2 million for a fugly house, which is not, that's a problem.
Okay.
But so now we're wondering, like, are we just putting too much into one area? And should we start looking at other?
No, why wouldn't you contact the David Green team in SoCal? Kyle, how many houses do they have in escrow right now?
Probably 15 to 20.
It's one of the top producing teams in the whole area. And Lindsay, who runs it, is also a real estate investor, thinks the same way you're talking. Okay. What we would do is just look at a map and say, where are the colleges, like what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, okay. UCI is like, we're 10 minutes away. It would be ideal. It's just, it's the capital to get into a $2 million fixer.
Okay,
so
in
any of these areas, and any college, there's any.
I don't want to say too much on this live because you have to talk to a loan officer.
Okay.
But why not talk to a loan officer and look at what would it look like to house hack with a 5% down loan, right? Which a lot of people invest out of state that are Californians. This is a pet peeve of mine. They'll say, "Oh, houses cost too much here, and I'm going to go buy in Louisiana where I can get a house for $150,000, and they got to put 25% down." Okay, so they're putting like $65,000 down on this house or something, when they could have put 5% down on $1 million house and put $50,000 down. It would be less money if they house hacked in the better area. So it doesn't have to be University of California, Irvine, but you might find colleges in areas where you can get a really big, ugly house that can be turned into a rent by the room in areas that aren't as expensive as Irvine, but are better than LSU.
Gotcha.
And I would just have them look at your options if it's close enough to your house for whatever you're doing. That like one of those a year that you're doing that this situation that you're talking about, you get like 10 years down the road buying. Can you imagine 10 houses in Southern California with the inflation that we're having and what the rents would be going up by over? You don't need to go to the other states.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you can get the money back out when you go refinance it. Like this is the key I'm going to leave you with. You cannot go pay market price for anything. You got to find the house. Lindsay will look for stuff that's been on the market 40 days, 50 days, 35 days. The sellers are getting nervous. It's got a lot of square footage. Maybe it has some area that hasn't been converted. Like I just bought one in Castro Valley, California. That was a 1,150 square foot house with 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. It sits on top of an entire basement and a garage that's more square footage than the 1150, and has a sunroom in the back with another bedroom attached to it that wasn't included. Like I'm going to more than double the value of that house. And I bought it for about $830. The ARV will be like 1.3 or so, but I don't have to spend that much money to convert a basement that already has framing and plumbing and like, right. So I'm going to put money in the deal but I will get it back out after I refinance. And now I've got 3 units that I can rent to traveling nurses like Dan, right? If you look at deals that way, your money will go further. You won't have to worry about running out of money.
Okay.
I'd like to, if somebody can send us the email address of who we need to get in touch with.
Can you put that up there, Kyle?
Conversation.
You got it.
For both Lindsay and or would it be easier if they just email you and you connect them to Lindsay?
Or we can text you on that thread.
Yeah.
What's best, Kyle?
Yeah, I'll text you guys personally, but for anybody else, if you want to get connected with a David Green Team real estate agent or one of our preferred partners in any market across the United States, send it to info@davidgreen24.com. And if you want to get connected with a one brokerage, a loan officer from the one brokerage, that would be intake@theonebrokerage.com.
David, Kyle, thank you both.
Thank you so
you for
much.
your time. We really appreciate it. It was great.
Appreciate
Yeah,
your
we'll
support.
we'll talk to your team.
Please
Great to
share
meet
the
you
channel
both.
too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Kyle, do you think I could share a pet peeve right now?
Let's do it. I love pet peeves.
Okay. I do not mean this to be negative. I just want everybody to hear it. And I'm assuming that people don't know, and that's why I'm saying it. We can connect you with realtors across the country. Many times are people I've used or we've met at conferences that we think are better than just your standard realtor you're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
We can do loans for people that are the same loans that Kyle would get if he bought a house, or I would get if I bought a house, or Christian would get. Like, we do them for ourselves. And then we have loan officers that work with David Green Team agents. So in general, they know how to like help to get your house under contract. They support the agent. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not use us when you listen to the live and you're like, that was so smart? David had a good strategy. Why would you not go to Lindsay if you live in Southern California and you're hearing this? Like, my pet peeve is when someone sends me an Instagram message this long or an email and says, what do I do? My realtor screwed this up. My loan officer can't do this thing. I need your advice. I need you to look at my deal. And they're using a different agent when we work in that area, right? Like, I just want you guys to realize how it sounds. It's kind of like I'm asking you on a date on this call right now. And I'm like, I'd really like to get to know you better. I'd like to take you out. I'm interested in you. I'm attracted to you. I want to get to know you. And you said, thank you, but no thank you. I'm going to go date this realtor that is also in Sacramento and isn't Kyle. And then you called me and said, the guy that I chose is a total jerk. Like, what do I do to get him to like me more? That is how it feels when we're talking about we're agents and we're loan officers and we do these lives for free. And someone goes and dates someone else and then calls me and they're like, oh, David, what do I do? The guy that I wanted more than you doesn't like me back and he screwed up. Like, how do I get him to like me? What do you think about that analogy, Kyle?
That's a great analogy. And we want to be that person up front. We don't want to be the rebound. Right. We want to be the person that we're going to win you over day one. And that's why we put on all this free stuff that we're doing. That's why you take time out of your busy day, Christian himself, to come on here and share like the stories that we have and the experiences that we have and the expertise that we have. So yeah, that's a good pet peeve. I think that is a reasonable pet peeve too.
Yeah, and it also brings up like this awkward legal situation where you come and you're using a different agent and I'm a licensed broker and now I'm giving advice that could be conflicting with the person you have and they can go sue me for screwing up their situation. Like, so Dawn Decow is asking the perfect question. Do you have someone in Vegas? I do. And she loves bigger pockets and she's super positive and she loves investing. And she just had me speaking to her group of people at her meetup. I would love to put you in touch with her. And again, I have to know like what your type of deal you're looking for, but this is a great question. Before we get out of here, is there anyone that wants to come on and tell me that they disagree that I want you guys using our agents or that's funny, Mickey. I'm open to dating DGT. Who here thinks different, right? Like, I want to hear if there's anyone that says, David, that's so mean that you say that. You should just give us all this free advice and then we should go use someone else and you should just be happy about it. Because every once in a while you get that, but no one ever actually says it. I'm just curious, as you guys are hearing, did that put a bad taste in anyone's mouth? Or do you think that there's a little bit of cognitive dissonance going on? And people are like, oh, shoot. I've been friend zoning the David Green team while I was dating another realtor, and I'm not happy with my relationship.
Could be. Sometimes we just don't talk about it enough. Some people, you'd be surprised about how many people I come across. They say, I didn't realize David had a real estate agent team or a loan team that could serve in this area. So we can definitely be doing a better job of reminding people. And everybody here that's listening can also do a great job of reminding people we serve real estate agent. We have the David Green team is based out of Northern California, Sacramento, the Bay Area, pretty much all the way down to Southern California. And then we've got referral agents in just about any other market. And the one brokerage is almost nearly in all 50 states. And so we can serve anybody across from basically from working with an agent all the way down to the loan. And so just don't forget to tell your friends.
Marnie Ocean Homes, thank you for asking the question that you would refer us people. Why don't you email us? And then not only will we tell you about the loan programs we have, but I want to hear what we can do to support your business. How can we help you close more homes? How can we help drive more business to you? If you're going to be referring the one brokerage out for loans, I'd love to figure out how I can support your business as well, because that's the way it's supposed to work. So make sure that you email me or someone on the team and let us know, and then I'll communicate with you that way. Kyle, anything you think that we missed?
No, I think this is a great Friday night to talk a lot about fun and happiness and pain. Had some great guests come on and share some really insightful things and things that they're doing in their life, which was really cool to see, and had some really good engagement. So this was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the next one. Next week, we may not be doing one. We're going to be in Scottsdale doing our retreat. Again, if any of you guys are interested in checking that out, we'd love to see you there. We actually do still have some spots available for that one. Mickey, who was here, actually mentioned a little bit earlier that he's open to dating DGT. Mickey's going to be there. So looking forward to meeting you in person. You can go find out more information at davidgreen24.com/retreat. We're having another retreat also on October 5th, right after Bigger Pockets, BPCon. So super excited about that one as well. So yeah, we'd love to see you guys in person, meet up, and it's going to be a really, really good opportunity.
Yeah, I've never done something like what we're doing on these retreats. Basically, you're going to sit down with us with a bunch of other investors that you get to know, and we are going to, or I am going to teach you, these are the principles that I use to predict the future. Like you guys heard me predict the future right now. No one's perfect. However, if you look at my track record going back when everyone else said COVID-19 is going to shut down the economy and destroy everything, and I said, nope, I think it's actually a short window and you're going to see a huge run up in prices, I was right. I'm going to teach you guys the angle that I look at real estate through, as well as the economy and the fundamentals that you need to understand if you want to build big wealth. Okay. So like how to interpret supply and demand, fundamentals to real estate investing, the questions you should be asking, the markets that would be ideal for what you're looking for, how I have so much fun, right? How I know what to look for other than just analyzing a house that I found on Zillow to build the things around me. Then I will show you, based on every topic that we discussed, here's all the houses that I've just bought, and here's how I used these techniques. So there will be a session on negotiating, and I'll say, here's how I negotiated before I went into contract. And then here's the techniques I used when I was under contract to get even more off. And this is the angle I played. You'll be able to see the house. You'll be able to hear the example. You'll like any questions you want to ask about how I did it, you'll be able to see. And you should walk away with a completely new way of looking at real estate. You should feel confident. You should be in control. You should feel excited. And you should be feeling like this is fun again, as well as your opportunity to just ask me as many questions as you could think of for how this stuff would apply to your situation. We've never done this. I always have to speak to large audiences on like a big podcast or even a format like this. I kind of have to make content that fits for everybody. You come to one of these retreats and you get all this information laser focused right onto you and what your goals are and how you will make much more money, much more money than whatever the cost of the retreat is. So do you guys want to get to know me better? I want to get to know you better. Please go to davidgreen24.com/retreat. Look for the ones we have now, and in the future, we'll have them all across the country so you can come to one near you.
Hey, one last question, or two things I actually wanted to point out before we close out here for the evening. I can't find it though. It was Han Solo asked a little bit earlier. if we had any recommendations for teaching a child about real estate investing. I'm going to do a little bit of plug here and drop a tidbit, something you guys might check out. For those of you that do have children, check out the school. It's called Acton Academy, ACTON. They may be all around. They are all around, actually throughout the world. And my son's been going there for 5 years. My daughter is in her second years. It's one of those schools that actually teaches social emotional intelligence, financial intelligence. It teaches skill development. We talked a lot about skills today. It's literally the school you wish you would have had when you were a kid. So go check it out if you've got kids. Get plugged into the community. It's different than your traditional factory-like school setting where kids are told to sit and they're told how to learn and how to study for a test. That might be something that would be interested in checking out. And last but not least, Christian, if you want to reach out to, thank you for answering Lupita's question there on the LLC. That's all I got for this night, and I'm looking forward to the next one, David.
Sounds good, guys. If we don't see you this Friday because we're at the retreat, we will see you on the next one. Please remember to like this channel and subscribe because we need it to grow in order to keep doing these things, and then share it with anyone else who you think would benefit from seeing the relationship that they have with pain and fun. My goal is that all of you guys would have much more fun lives, and I'm committed to helping you get there. Please stay committed to us.
Awesome. See you guys.